Good morning. Today is the regularly scheduled Tuesday, January 28th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. It is 8:30 a.m. You have before you today's agenda. Do you have any additions or corrections for today's agendas?
No.
Okay, seeing none, if I could get a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Second. It's unanimous. Minutes. We have the minutes from our regularly held meeting on January 21st and 23rd. Any additions or corrections to those?
No, they look good.
I agree. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
So moved.
Second. It's unanimous. Public comments. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments to the Board of Selectmen on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Comments submitted electronically should be sent to the following email address: bosdistribution@newcanaanct.gov. Do I have anyone wishing to address the board? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Yes, please. I don't have to read that. I can just say, or do I have to read it? Okay. All right. Oh, yes, the Board of Selectmen received an email from Roy Abramowitz asking, dealing with our approval of the police vehicle. And we will attach that to the meeting's minutes from today. So, because it's a long email. Thank you, Becker, for bringing that over. And then, so moving, anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move on to today's budget review. Today's budget review is the final review and discussion for the FY26 budget, including general government and fee memos. So who's up first?
We're going to do insurance.
That's great. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have Larry Kirshner from Epic Online. He has been a broker for insurance for.
Gosh, what page are we on?
I actually gave you two sheets.
I have the handouts. We're just trying to connect that to the budget document.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have asked Larry to join us this morning to talk a little bit about the experience with Anthem and how we have been doing over the past year. Just to give you a little bit of information, we currently have 197 active employees on the plan. We have 19 of those are library. And then we also have 11 retirees on the HSA and 5 on the PPO. So Larry, if I can turn it over to you to kind of give an overview of where we're at.
Sure. Of the 197, that is inclusive of the library.
Correct. And then overall, meaning families, we have 469 altogether.
469 lives. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Larry.
Yeah,
go
good
ahead.
morning, everybody. Just kind of high level. I did prepare one or two exhibits, and this is very similar to our discussions in the past, and really no different than our normal discussions, like I said. So I don't know if everybody can see this, but this is, as Cheryl pointed out, just a quick summary of how we're doing versus the projected budget. So we are through the first 6 months of the plan year, and really just to kind of keep this brief and to the point, I've circled here at the bottom the red, and that is our per capita cost. As we've talked about in the past, although we have roughly 200 employees here, we have a lot of families covered. So our you could see here on this chart, which basically is our experience tracking module by month, that second column in from the left, we have our enrolled employees, and then we have our family members or dependents as well. So,
Sorry to interrupt. Can you make that a little bit bigger for us?
Yes.
It's very small.
Sorry
on
Like
this.
a
about
lot
that.
of it bigger.
A lot bigger. If not, Josh can also share. It's just we've got people looking at Zoom as well.
How's that?
There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, like I said, our high level chart as it relates to the experience tracking. So we talk about per capitas. We are covering roughly 2.4 people per employee. That's the fourth column in from the left here. So unlike the school board, which has a lot more singles, we've got predominantly more families. So our per capitas are always going to be higher, but really, for the point of the discussion today is we are off to a little bit hotter start this year than in the past. And down on the right, so this is tracking basically the year-to-date enrollment, medical claims, pharmacy claims, stop-loss reimbursements here in red. And then this first gray bar or column is our total claims paid. And then working to the right here, we have our aggregate stop loss cap. That's where our aggregate insurance is. The administrative fees, which are comprised of administrative fees and network access fees to Anthem. Stop loss insurance, where just to take a step back, we were able to save the town $500,000 last year on the stop loss renewal in July between the Board of Ed and the town, where we collectively purchased stop loss. So that's helping. So this next gray column is our total self-funded costs through 6 months. We're at about 3.2 million. And then we have, working our way to the right, our accruals, our own internal tracking versus a basis of what we charge the employees, our HSA funding. So we have our total cost so far is about 3.441 million against our fiscal year budget of about 3.489 million. So we're running a very slight surplus to budget right now. So in kind of pivoting the conversation towards next fiscal year, this exercise I've told you many times in the past, it's really kind of looking at the 12 months prior and projecting it forward. So here, just looking at the bottom, I put together a very small chart. You can see that we've run very flat. It's been a good story for the last almost 5 years now, where coming out of COVID, our per capita cost was roughly about $2,200 a month, and we've really kind of held steady at about $2,400 a month for the last 3 years. And first 6 months, we're up 14%, $2,700 a month through the first 6 months. That does not overly concern me because we typically run a little hotter out of the gate in the first 6 months, because that's when our stop loss insurance deductible of $150,000 per person resets in July. So we typically fund more claims in the beginning, or more towards 2/3 part of the year than the latter part of the year, as people matriculate towards that $150,000 deductible. So just wanted to kind of share that. I'm not, I think our budget projection for next year, like we've been on, for all these years, we've been pretty much right on target. We've never run a deficit, and I think that'll be more of the same. But, kind of pivoting the conversation, the other thing that's going on, and I'll try and, is that we can't ignore, and everybody knows about this because we deal with it every day, is the healthcare inflation is definitely real. This is this is kind of a sad chart. This is going back to, it doesn't predate me yet, but it's, the last 17 years or so, PricewaterhouseCoopers data. And as you can see, that healthcare inflation has continued to run in the mid-single digits. And that is going to be more of the same. And what we've done is we've overlaid in the red how we've run versus historical inflation. And that red looks exactly like any 200 employee group would look like, because of the variability, volatility, whatever you want to call it, across 200 lives. So
Corey, if you were to like, smooth that line, because, you know, we have a lot of ups and downs, if we were taking this, you know, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 10, you know, what is
8
it,
years, yeah.
8-year average? What was our 8-year average?
it's in the low single digits.
Like higher or lower than
Oh, it's
inflation?
lower, you know, going back to, that's what I tried to do here. You can see
Okay,
on the right side here, we've been really good as it relates to trend.
yeah, that doesn't have an average, so,
Yeah.
But,
okay.
but the last point, the 14 point, whatever, 7%, that's probably an overstatement because it's 6 months year to date, right?
Well said. And it's, you could see it's 14% up off of a flat number. It's only about 7% up off of the trend.
So last year at this time, if you were to look at our 6 months year to date, would you have seen similarly?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah.
Actually, I think we were higher at this point last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of that is driven by, in the first 6 months, we're funding those claims up to the stop loss. And then it smooths out. So that's why when we do the projection, we're dipping back into the last, the first 6 months of 2024, the last 6 months of the fiscal year, and the first 6 months of our plan year and fiscal year this year. So when we bring the two together, we're picking up the back end, which is better than the first 6 months, and it smooths it out.
yeah, so a 12-month rolling average would be a better way to look at it. If you could do that, like it's a 12-month rolling average.
That's correct. In a 12-month rolling average, we're spot on.
Good.
And I think in a nutshell, just to kind of wrap it up, at the end of the day, the budgetary number reflects more. Again, if this was if we were collectively starting an insurance company today, or as we're having this discussion around being a payer, we can't ignore medical inflation. The beauty's been that our plan has performed better than the average around medical inflation, and that's why we've run surplus as being self-insured over the last however many years versus any surplus going to the insurance company's bottom line and their shareholders. So again, it kind of put a bow on it. We have to budget for some modicum of inflation. And if it doesn't materialize, that money stays with the town.
Walk from the papers we've had to what's in this budget.
Hey, Larry, on that deductible at 150,000, have we had that deductible for a couple of years, or how does that work?
So that great question. So that's the foundation of that's our insurance, right? So we
Right.
just raised it a few years ago we had it for a long time at 100. But the cost of reinsurance is getting, and not to dive too deep into an insurance conversation today, but the major issue facing the industry is there's a lot of pressure on reinsurers. And I don't care if it's property, health, we're seeing claims now. Yeah, I had an $8 million baby this year in Pittsburgh. You know, we're routinely seeing claims hit $1 million, $2 million a year. So there's a lot of pressure on the reinsurer. So to maintain that $100,000 deductible that we had a few years ago, it just wasn't worth the premium anymore, the risk reward. So we raised it to 150,000. I want to say 2 years ago, and it's worked out for us. You know, we're definitely seeing claims. We have about 7 claimants already this year hit 100,000, and that's driving some of the result in the first 6 months. But we've had it at 150. We collectively purchase it with the school board. They have a 300, and like I said, we had a very good outcome last July when we marketed it and we switched our reinsurer to Sun Life and we saved the town $500,000. But this is, as we go towards July, and we've built in a modicum of increase for our stop loss insurance costs, this is an area where there's going to be continued pressure because, you know, that's going to be the conversation as we get closer to July. Do we maintain 150,000? Do we buy less insurance and pay lower premiums, or do we kind of stay the course? and focus more on the volatility, taking out or negating the volatility of the program at a lower stop loss point.
Yeah, well, we should do, I mean, and not for today, but we should do an analysis comparing us to the Board of Ed on number of cases over, a history of probably 10 years of how many are hitting the stop loss and comparatively, because, it is a market difference and, we obviously have a different pool of employees, so we need to be sensitive.
Well said.
But I
Well said. We historically, and that's why Voya kind of begged off the risk this year. They were a reinsurer priors because we were hitting them very hard. You have to keep in mind the demographics of the town employees are different than the school, where we have we're not bringing in consistently, although we have some younger police officers and maybe from time to time some firemen or firefighters. Our risk is kind of static and is getting a little bit older year over year. So that's something that we keep a very close eye on.
And Larry, are we seeing, is anybody hitting the stop loss because of the expense of pharmaceuticals? Is that pushing
Yes.
people to stop loss?
Yes, we're seeing, again, if we were starting our own insurance company today, the pharmacy, in the area of specialty pharmacy, again, great drugs, but some very, very expensive. We haven't really had a cell and gene therapy claim yet, which can run into the millions of dollars. But we are seeing some very, very high cost specialty medications pierce into the deductible.
This is for Josh. So we're trying to tie back to Larry's numbers in our budget books. And so we're not sure if we're missing, like if it's in different places. I mean, we're seeing a much different.
We budgeted at 5% because I think, as Larry says, it's very hard to know.
Okay.
Like these are Larry's numbers. Again, they're projections.
Okay.
So we don't usually know, and Larry, you can jump in until April,
Okay.
where we're going to be, but we usually try to get within 1% or so of what Larry's projecting.
Okay.
Is the healthcare in each department or, so, because if we look at the
To the page in the budget.
It's one bulk number.
And then Larry, could you also pull up the health and welfare plans that you had sent to me, and that shows the breakout of where?
And this also,
Yes.
this doesn't, the offset for employee
Okay.
deductions, library,
Okay, because I
This is
don't see the
pure
stop
cost,
loss premium
not,
in here
what the
either.
premium cost
Is that
volume
netted in this top number?
here, it shows up in the internal service fund. It's about $1 million a
okay.
year.
Okay, that's why
For the
Yep.
employee library share.
the stop loss premium is in there too. So it's not in this number.
Yeah, historically, the timing of the budget being April 1st, it's always been like that last minute adjustment
Right.
right before we set it. So
Yeah. And it's just what it is,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I'm just going to be devil's advocate here, not that I'm trying to increase expense on the budget we're looking at. Is 5% reasonable for next year?
Larry?
I mean,
Believe, if he's coming in right now at 4.8, I think we're pretty good.
okay, good. All right.
And I listened to the Board of Ed. They're around the same place.
Okay.
They're not, they're very similar.
Another side of it, Amy, is that's why when we wait later in the year, we get our ADAC from USI.
Mhm.
So if our ADAC is in a favorable position, we have that bumper to actually put retiree claims against the trust if we need it.
Right.
So if the claims we're paying are higher than our ADAC, we did that last year. We haven't drawn it down yet. We may use it for the Board of Ed. And we have that in, just in case we wanted to pull down, we have that bumper. Last year it was 300,000 that we could actually pull from the trust and not affect the ADAC.
Thank you.
Yeah,
in-
so right here, this is just, as Cheryl mentioned, we would project that all of the programs, with obviously the health being the lion's share, would be about 8 million or 4.8% over our current budget, with the bulk of that really being specifically to the claims to project against and hedge against inflation.
pretty good shape, actually.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, anybody have any other questions?
No, that's really
Yeah,
helpful. Very helpful.
I think this is a good summary.
That's actually promising.
Hmm?
It's-
This year,
That's
Yeah.
nice.
As they say, it's always a five-year cycle.
And then Larry, what we can do is work on maybe with the Board of Ed, looking at that stop loss over the past 10 years. We can talk to their rep and see if we can get that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been a great story because, you know, when we came up with the idea many years ago, it's worked as it should, where there are years where the Board of Ed has had some bad history and the town has been good. And then there's been years where it's been inverted. And that, you know, the bottom line is that we're pooling our premium to smooth out the experience. So last year, like I said, last July, you know, Voya, we had a good run with Voya, but they jacked our premium, and that was really more that their book of business was falling apart. They wrote a lot of bad business. So we were able to move the coverage and save the $500,000 for the same coverage with Sun, who's a very good reinsurer. But that's kind of really par for the course. How it's, you know, there's going to be years where they support the program. There's going to be years where the $1 million the town pays in supports the underlying fundamentals of the program.
All right. Larry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Larry.
Continued best wishes.
All right, so. Good. Yeah.
There shouldn't be much. It should net out on the summary page though, with salary.
Right, right.
Okay.
But this has your updates and the stuff we took out. Or
It
does
should
have
have
always
the
capital
maj-
here, or no?
It should have the majority of the updates, yeah.
Right.
I have it shown here.
Thanks.
Just share this. All right. Okay, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So let's quickly review all of the departments that fall under the umbrella of general government. So just as kind of a cheat sheet. If you need your cheat sheet, it's the same as from
Or no,
yes
that's-
on Thursday.
I'm sorry,
It's the same
cheat
page
sheet that we
number
got the
on
other day.
Thursday, yeah.
I got it.
So just as an overview on the expenditure side, these are kind of the main departments that fall under general government. For Selectmen, Finance, Assessor, Collector, Legal, HR, IT, Town Clerk, Registrar, Building, Land Use and Parking. And for FY26, it's about a 1.6% year-over-year increase from FY25. So it's not too bad. We've done our best to really keep it pretty steady, pretty flat. So on to the first Selectmen's budget. Obviously, the first Selectman is kind of like the first line of the public coming in. Got the newsletter, which has 2,000 subscribers and hopes to get to 3,000 or 4,000 next year. I think she can do it. Next year, they're preparing some programming for their 250th year anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So there'll be a lot coming out around that. And so the first Selectmen's budget is coming in at a decrease right now of 1.94%. That's led by mainly by the restructuring of the HR generalist position. It was 50-50 in HR and for Selectmen's department, and it's being shifted 25-75 with the majority in HR. Also, there's a 16,500 ad for a communications specialist position, which is being offset by a reduction in the project coordinator position.
So we probably need to modify that number, and because we just, I don't know if I can. Yeah, why don't you come up?
So we had a full-time communications / grant position. The individual did leave to go to another town. He has asked to come back. So we had spoken to the first selectman yesterday, and we would like to we would like the town to put monies back to bring him back to that full-time position. He would go back to the same job description, adding more special projects, helping a little bit more in the communications area. But what we found after he left was that there was a lot of areas that we weren't able to cover. We were hoping to bring someone in part-time. When we interviewed, we weren't able to find that skill set that we had with Greg. So in meetings yesterday, our thought was that we need that position back. So we would like to put that back in the
So
budget.
this comes out, the part-time 16.5 comes out.
That part-time would come out and it would be increased back in the full-time budget.
But it's in different, it's not in your budget.
Well, he would have been under my budget.
Yeah, he
'cause-
would've-
Yeah, he would have been, so my budget will go up.
Yes.
So what's the delta?
Percentage wise.
70 something?
Yep,
70
and he's
something.
going back to that.
Yeah.
So
75-ish, 73.
Oh, because with benefits and everything else.
Yeah, and netting out this, right?
yeah,
I mean, I think that it's good news that we can get Tim back as quickly as this. Obviously, there's a ton of institutional knowledge there. And I will definitely kid him that the grass was definitely not greener. Although I will
He was
say he's
warned.
back.
He
yeah,
was warned.
Well, but we talked to him about his commute, and that was part of the draw of staying up in Stratford. And
Yeah.
but anytime we can get a quality person like that to come in and work with us again, he's a great guy. So I would 100% support hiring him back.
And I mean, he was instrumental in us getting our $2 million grant
Right.
funding. That was not an easy lift. And I'm not sure how we would have gotten all the requests and everything else completed. And there's another federal grant that we're hopeful if things, who knows? Who
They're
knows?
all on
Yeah,
hold.
exactly. Yes, they would.
Don't expect any money coming our way.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
So,
mean, there's no training involved. There's no months
Right.
of getting up to speed and all
Right.
that. So, you're literally day one. No,
And, Josh said the newsletter has been huge and that has really, he was a big starter with that. So he will pick that back up.
All right.
So that takes you from negative.
I know. I was so excited.
0.94
I don't know. Yeah. To add him back in.
Yeah, 71, do that.
We'll have that before,
Oh, of course,
Thursday.
before Thursday, for sure.
It's easy.
yeah. Okay.
Well, outside of that, there's also a 6,000 decrease in the economic development line, which is just due to some initiatives being completed in FY25 and the previous level of funding no longer being needed. Any questions on the first selectman's budget? Okay. On to finance. Finance is seeing a decrease of 2.67%. The finance department has been doing a lot of initiatives to streamline a lot of processes and utilize our tools kind of to their greatest extent. We've been doing a lot in Munis, our accounting software, to right now we're in the process of integrating our contracts module, streamlining the AP process and kind of giving more power down to the departments in terms of changing purchase orders and budget transfers and so on. We've also kind of increased our numbers in terms of ACHs that we've done with vendors. We do about 6,000 items of accounts payable per year. It used to be about 6,000 checks. After we introduced ACHs, we did about 500 ACHs and 5.5 thousand checks. Now it's about 60-40 in terms of percentage. So it's slowly getting to 50-50, and hopefully that number kind of increases every year, and it makes vendors get their money faster and us process less paper and so on.
I just wanted to quickly, because we were just talking about salary, I noticed, so we will move, because in last year's budget,
Was in finance.
it was in
the grant
finance,
writer
so
position.
we're gonna move that. So Greg's position was under finance and now it'll be under mine.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
It's gonna make
'cause
you
I-
look better. There you go.
Yeah, it looks, makes you look better, makes me look worse. I'm taking one for the team, just so you know.
Oh, wait, oh, so you're moving Greg into you now?
Yes,
Oh,
he
okay.
was in finance.
There you go. Go for it. There you go.
So
But Josh, just on that point that you made before, for years, it would always bother us that we heard from vendors that they weren't getting paid timely, and you guys have really stepped it up. So,
yeah,
you know,
we still have to obviously run through our controls and processes, but once we have the invoice to pay, they can have the money really within the week or within a couple of days. It speeds up the process by a little bit.
Thank you for what you're doing.
And it reduced, there's a lot of fraud in a lot of towns, and we had it once, but it was caught by our bank of whitewashing the checks. So we did have someone who took, who tried to take one of our checks at 4,000 and put it up to 40,000. But we have all different controls in place, positive pay, things like that, so it stops it right away. But some other towns are, they're getting those whitewash checks.
That's
So
an actual
moving
physical
to
check. You're not gonna-
ACH eliminates that part, but then we have to make sure from the control aspect of when we get a vendor who comes in to change their ACH that we're calling. So when we're setting up a new vendor and when we're changing them, we're actually calling the vendor to make sure they sent us, a form to say that they did make that change.
Public service announcement. When you write a check, you should use a Sharpie. You can't switch it.
Oh, didn't know that.
Or just don't use checks.
The other ones you can kind of mess with more.
My whole hand is gonna be messy.
So the drop in finance is due to the removal of the grant writer position. But the addition of a purchasing agent position. Finance department right now, we're working to kind of centralize purchasing and the contract management within the finance department. And so we're bringing on a dedicated purchasing agent in order to facilitate that.
Explain to me what exactly this person will do that we aren't doing now, or what's the cost for the individual all in
75, 85 plus benefits.
plus bennies?
Yeah.
Or with
Yeah,
bennies?
85, it's budgeted at 85.
Will be above that with benefits.
Okay, so what does that? Why is that a good spend for us? Yeah.
So first, we're centralizing the process. It's decentralized, which has been a recommendation of our audits years ago. So that they manage the whole process in terms of once the departments go out for bid, it'll centralize all those bids, all those contracts for both an expense and a revenue side. Our contracts are everywhere. They will take over all the making sure everything's in place, making sure the insurance is in place. The departments do that now. But again, all those insurances are everywhere and not in one centralized location. And approving recs, purchase orders, so that when it comes in front of you for approval, that person can sign off to say, yes, there's money in the budget. Yes, the process was done the right way. So when the POs come in front of you, you have a secure process that someone has followed it. We're looking at this person being kind of the risk person to manage that whole process as well on both sides of what our vendors are carrying for the appropriate insurances, whether they're a consultant or should they be a contractor versus an employee with some of our programs we have, and our contract, like we said, our contracts module we want to bring in. I can't tell you how many times I'm looking for a contract and 10 different people might have it on their Excel spreadsheet. We don't have it centralized. Also in terms of managing our retainage, that's been a very, it's an accounting process at the end of the year. That's been a very cumbersome process to manage our retainage appropriately. Has it been accrued? This person will be able to manage all that from a centralized
Just so
process.
you know, I mean, because I want to speak to the, that there's money in the account. We added, when I came in, anybody that puts a PO in front of me to sign, I require them, one, the department chair has to sign it, and they also have to tell me that there is money available in the account before I'll sign it. So that process is in place. I didn't want anybody to think that process wasn't.
Yes, no, it's in place. It's centralizing the process.
It's centralizing it so that there's oversight,
So with this person, I'm just trying to think, things we've been trying to see if we can get, would we be able to get kind of quarterly updates for, how our projects are?
You could, they could run a
budget?
report like that.
We talked
Overall-
about that, so can we get, these are the projects we planned for this year. This is what we expected, and this is where we are basically on spend versus where we expected to and on budget. I mean, just because those are, like with the police department building and all those things, we always get, up to date. And so will all that stuff be like easier to find?
They could run reports for all, we track everything through a project code when it's related from funds from tax supported premium or capital or grants. We assign a project code. So that's something that we can pull down to show, the revenue source, and the expenditure budget versus actual.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
But just quarterly. There's some, because otherwise it's adding a burden to people who are already doing stuff.
Right.
It's hard for people to get everything done, but if that could be part of their.
Well, they're the,
Role.
they're going to be experts in, the accounting system and things like that. Whereas all the other departments might not be, they're experts in their
doing their work.
Yeah.
Support factor, because the person doing it now is really doing 1.5 jobs as it is. So I end up going into overtime to be able to cover certain times a year, because the person doing all the recs and POs has to shift between, do I get the recs and POs, which we need out to get projects started, or do I pay the vendors and they get upset because we're not paying them? So that person is very stretched, and I end up, pulling another person in to try and help that.
So does your
process.
overtime go down with bringing this
It
person
should,
on?
it should.
In this budget, is it going down? Or you just
Uh,
want it steady?
You know what? I don't.
It's staying
I
flat,
think yeah.
but we've been running over on what we budgeted in
And
the past.
we've had some different personnel changes right now that's why it's covering as well.
But we are bringing down the part-time to make up for some of the increase in the full-time. Along with that, we're lowering our part-time by 34% by the removal of the associate risk manager position and also the reduction of the project coordinator position.
Okay, so the net from her hiring the purchase person is not the 120, it's 90 or something like that. And
All this
and then
process.
perhaps overtime can come down even more. So hopefully, okay. Hope springs eternal.
Our professional service audit line, we're reducing by 13,000. This is reflecting the actual cost in the past years and fluctuation due to invoice timing. Banking and transaction fees, we are lowering 6,500 about. We're moving some of the banking fees back to departments that are receiving the corresponding revenue, just so they kind of live in the same place instead of all being funneled into finance. On finance. Okay. On to the tax assessor. This kind of department goes hand in hand with the tax collectors department, so it's almost better to view it as a single. The tax assessor is actually transitioning to the director of tax assessment and taxation with the retirement of our current tax collector.
In February.
In
She hasn't gone
February, correct, in February, after 18 years, and a 99.6% tax collection rate is pretty good. So the tax.
Can you make sure she comes to our February meeting, before she retires? Thank you.
So the tax assessor's budget is going up 11.1%. And that is due to a 9.6% increase in the full-time salary line due to that adjustment in the tax assessor's position. It is also due to the salaries part-time line increasing 7,000 to support a new position that's kind of a shared position, I believe, between the assessor and the collector's office as kind of like a bridge between it. And that'll kind of help facilitate the, I guess, merging of the departments. I'm not sure if it's merging, but just the cohesiveness of the departments. There's also a $5,000 increase in the service contracts line, which is really solely due to QDS cloud software. This is 5,000 seems like a lot, but it's really only 3,500 over what the actuals were in FY24. So over 2 years, it's really only about $1,000 a year increase. I think SEBI tends to budget low for that. So this is bringing it up to what the actuals really should be for FY26. Any questions on the assessor's budget? On to the collector's budget, there's a corresponding decrease of 31.22% with the full-time salary line decreasing by 41% due to the merging of the two positions. There's also an increase in the part-time salary line of $4,500 to support that merged part-timer position, and an increase of $1,000 in the service contract line for QDS cloud software as well. Any questions on this budget?
So between these two, we're down about 14% if you
It's
put
a
them together,
win-win.
right?
Yeah.
By streamlining, right? Yeah, that's good.
And this isn't, we're not, other towns have done this. This is not, like, we are not unique
Okay.
in doing this. So.
The location of offices where there's enough communication that can go on between, it just seems like, you know, where Sebi is now versus where. you know,
There's a door that connects them. It's a little private door, but they actually are connected. It just doesn't look like it from the hallways.
Well, just you know, from an administration
Yeah.
standpoint, it seems like there should be, you know, as much interaction
Yeah.
between those two areas as possible, but that solves the problem.
Yeah.
And we'll take the door down.
All right, on to legal. Legal right now, we have, this year it's 400,000, and for FY '26, we have budgeted 425,000. I think for FY '25, we're really running on track with what we've budgeted. And for FY '26, we have the fire and police union contract negotiations, so we've kind of increased that correspondingly to account.
And
for
that was,
those.
that number was, I spoke with our legal counsel. We talked about both the, you know, the A30G issues
Yeah.
and the contracts, and he still felt comfortable with that budget.
We always go up during negotiations on
Yeah.
the legal cost.
Yeah.
What is the timing for both of those?
March.
Okay, so if we have decent negotiations, we'll know the costs for police and fire, hopefully. Will we? I guess April, that's a
Takes
little
a
late.
while. Takes a while.
I would say more like August, September.
Eesh. That can really mess up your budget. Okay. All right.
Or it could be a good budget.
Okay, good.
All right, so moving on from legal, we are in the HR department. HR just wrapped up contract negotiations with the DPW union. And of course, they have the two upcoming police and fire unions. They're also starting to begin an initiative in using GovInvest, which is a labor management tool, which helps kind of keep compensation comparables within our region and kind of just promote that transparency and, you know, just a resource for them.
Well, and it's just, I mean, just to give you an idea, like just this week, I got a request from CCM for all kinds of data about our purchasing policies and all that kind of stuff. And GovInvest can help with all of that. And it's not just, it's the staff time to accumulate all that stuff that we have. So,
So the HR department sees an increase of 9.13%, but the real main driver of that is, the restructuring of the HR generalist position in the full-time salary line. That's increasing by 11%. If you filter that out, HR sees an increase of 1.8% year over year. So it's really pretty good. Their other drivers are the.
Wait, Josh, I just want to make sure. So, but in fact, we are upping the staffing? I mean,
no,
explain to me that.
that's, she's being allocated differently.
Oh, where was she?
We were taking half of her salary, but weren't getting sort of half of her time. So we
Okay,
just
so
reallocated based on.
75 now, so they're getting a quarter of a person back.
Yeah, because I think when I looked at the numbers for HR, you were 2.5, now you're 2.6. You get a 0.6 person, if I looked in the book correctly.
On which,
Which is that?
I went to, it was in
HR.
the back where they have this.
Yeah, so this is going to page 37.
Oh, 0.3. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
2.5.
didn't think,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
like, where did that person
Okay,
come from?
0.3.
it's rounding, I think.
It's
It's
what?
rounding point two to
Oh, yeah.
0.25 to 0.3.
Okay.
I'll add another decimal point.
There we go.
So other drivers here are our payroll processing software, ADP, is coming down 2,500 to reflect the contract that's in effect. State drug and alcohol testing is also being reduced by 2,000, bringing it in line with what the past actuals have been. Training is increasing by 2,000. Training in the HR department is really a line that gets used to support other departments. So kind of its increase really correlates with other departments who may not typically have their own training lines or training processes in place, coming to HR and asking for some supplemental funding for those.
And who signs off on the training?
And the department head.
Any questions on HR? So over to IT. IT services about 6,000 service requests per year. Over the past year, they've updated basically all of our voice network for the WAN, including servers. They've refreshed all of our VM images recently, and they're getting just a whole new monitor set up for basically every department, every user. So their budget is going up 21.69%. And that's really driven by one line. So that main increase is by 115,000 in the service contract line, but it's due to a few reasons. The main reason being our cybersecurity used to be budgeted in our capital line for about 65,000 for Darktrace. It's a true service contract that's a yearly expense. So we've brought that into the service contract line. There's a couple contracts that were 3-year contracts that are, happen to all be ending this year, but that we're transitioning to a yearly and annual contract. So Rubric is a contract that's ending and adds an additional 26,000. SHI for VDI is about 18,000 in Microsoft licensing fees. Bitdefender is another 3-year contract that's ending in another 4,000. And OpenGov, instead of being across several departments, is within the IT department's budget and is increasing over last year by about 5,000. So that's really the main drivers for the IT department. We spent some time really diving into every single contract that makes up that service contract line, from what powers our email servers, our backup servers, and everything, just to make sure that number is a true number. And we're very confident that that is, as painful of an increase as it is, hopefully it's a 1-year increase like that.
But it's not like we didn't spend this money in the budget.
Correct.
It's just elsewhere. So if you net out the 115, their increases.
Like if you
modest.
smooth it over the several years of the contracts, it's really the same going forward, but it just hurts this 1 year as
Most of the service contracts I'm seeing, for every department, they're up, 5 to 10%. I mean,
Yeah, they got you.
we're definitely getting hammered on service contracts with especially IT.
Well, it's
related.
just a new business model. Don't have them buy it. Just remember, you used to be able to buy Microsoft
Yes, Office.
Office for your computer forever.
But you mentioned, Jess, that these are yearly contracts, and that's one of the things about a 3-year contract is that you kind of fix it, and there's not the chance to get this every year over year over year. It's increasing. And so I'd encourage Chris to look at maybe some longer stints. 1 year, you're back again next year saying, oh, gee, the contracts went up again. I mean, it's, I don't know.
Did he?
Yeah, if they're offered.
Yeah, or the other thing though with tech, and we should,
Tech-
maybe we
tech-
should have
tech
him come
changes
in,
quick,
is
too.
that, because of the fast moving nature of tech changes, I don't know if he wants that flexibility
Yeah, that's
because
probably the
of,
answer.
what's,
Vendors.
what's available. But we should have him in, what, Tucker, we should maybe have Chris come in and after budget cycle.
Because
to
he mentioned
talk about
that
all
Dark
this.
Trace was something new.
Oh, he's presenting later on. All right, we can
Alright.
ask him about it when he's here. There you go.
The only other kind of blip on the IT budget is their training line increased this year by 3,000. It's a new online training platform that'll service the entire department over just countless topics and skill sets and so on. It'll be something that's accessible to all of them at all times to kind of keep them educated and updated on either new things that are coming out or just kind of
Did they not have training?
Cheryl, did they just come out of your budget? Was there any of their training out of your budget?
New staff.
So we have covered some of it in the past. We have hired, as of last year, a new employee. And so there's certain trainings that we need them to go through. And this was a cheaper option because some of those trainings were $2,500 a training. So Chris was able to find this training platform where they can get different trainings. Also, there's a systems person over at the PD who will also be able to use that.
So we're not allocating any over to the PD.
We need to keep that percentage down.
That's a very
You know
small
what,
number.
so it just raises a question. So if this was brought in for sort of the new person, after a year or so, would maybe that go down again? Or is it something we think is gonna be, we need it?
I think we're just gonna need the different
Sure.
trainings because of our systems
Yeah.
and the upgrades. There's so much training to go along with it, and each training is 2,000 to 4,000.
Okay.
So this platform, if it works, will definitely save
Okay.
town.
And everybody can,
Yeah.
right? Everybody can use it.
Yeah.
Wilton. New Canaan is one of the few towns that are actually on a virtual environment. Most others are on the desktop. We're on virtual, so there's a lot more training and security levels that Chris keeps in place that other towns don't have.
Nah.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Any other questions on the IT budget? All right, on to town clerk. Budget is essentially flat. It's about an increase of 0.5%. This is coming off of obviously an election year, so numbers kind of move around a bit. It's also good to look at the town clerk in conjunction with the registrar of voters, since some of those increases and decreases offset each other. And some of the reasonings of their lines also are similar. Salaries part-time and elections part-time are decreasing 7,000 and 2,000 due just to the decreased need from elections last year. Outside contract services is increasing by 2,000 due to the cost increases of the COP software. Postage and advertising are also decreasing 2,500 and 2,000 due to the prior year presidential election. And there's a $13,000 increase in ballots. This is really because we are moving the ballots, the purchasing of ballots back into the town clerk's budget. It used to be split in-person ballots and mail-in ballots and absentee ballots between the town clerk and the registrar. And so we're bringing them all together and created a new accounting line, a new account called ballots. So they're all in kind of one place to track easier. Whereas they used to be in an office supplies line. So you'll see a decrease in the registrar's line of office supplies by about 11,000 and a decrease in the town clerk's line by about 2,000 in office supplies, and the increase here of about 13,000.
No, Cheryl, I'm just sorry, going back to salary. So I was just looking, I noticed last year's revised budget, we added a position in the town clerk's office.
Correct.
And I can't remember, what was the reason for that?
We had taken away, she had so many part-time individuals, so,
Okay.
and again, we were hiring continuously. So
Okay.
they felt last year, if we took some of those part-time away and
Okay.
added a full-time, and I think that's working out quite well.
Okay. So if I look. Yep. So I know I'm just looking at the PT. So 22, you're right, it was very high. 23, she's saved about $7,000. She hasn't saved that much in part-time help. So we need to kind of maybe relook at that, because I mean, I'm all for if she needs it, but we're not getting sort of the equivalent of the salary of a full-time person.
Correct.
We're not seeing that decline in the overtime.
Yep. So I will speak with her.
Okay.
And, you know, we do have the healthcare related with the full-time
Right,
person.
right. I mean, because we're only seeing a $7,000 decline, and then the first, I mean, we did see that one year. I guess I'm trying to see the timing though, because that person didn't go in until 23, 24. So we saw a Yeah, we saw $30,000.
I think some of
Was
these,
about a 30.
some of these increases might also be due to things like the addition of early voting and the increases in absentee ballots that,
Yep.
that they've had to put out.
Yep.
You know, I think they're,
It's been, since the 22 budget. I mean, this has gone up 23%.
And I-
This department.
I think, Deanna, we did take it down 7,000
Yes, I see that.
when we met with you.
Yep,
So,
yep.
I mean, if the board wants to look at maybe taking it down 3 more to 10, I can speak with her.
say that they're coming into,
This isn't a presidential year, so maybe it is not a bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
We can,
they are, I've been told that they are going to have to be trained on new voting systems and new voter registration softwares that are both coming out, I think, within the next year or so. So that may increase some.
does that go in the clerk's office or just the registrar's
I think both.
office?
Yeah, but
Okay.
don't you just do that during your job? I mean,
That's true.
we've all been in jobs where you have training, you just kind of do it, I mean, that shouldn't increase time. There may be an expense associated with it, but it shouldn't increase someone's hours.
The only one would be election workers, bringing them in on a Saturday or something. to
That's-
train.
that's
Yeah,
different.
That's about, yeah,
That's different.
yeah, that would be the only.
100%, that's a lot. Those certainly the early voting and.
Yeah.
And
It's added.
it makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have it there, and then you have it voter. I mean, it's like in a million places. So.
So on to the Registrar of Voters office. That sees a decrease of 11%. The main drivers here are similar to the town clerk. Part-time salary office and part-time elections are one's being reduced 5,000, the other is increasing 2,000. The elections personnel is being reduced 8,000. Meals and events, let's see, what did that actually increase? That increased to 2,500. Which is due to the early voting now that they obviously have to feed those poll workers that are there for many hours. And the supplies office line is coming down by 11,000, as I had mentioned before in the town clerks.
Although the meals and events is actually, if you look at the revised budget, it's actually down. So it's what you're comparing it to, just so we.
Was in 24 were 4,000 in a presidential year,
Yeah.
and so this is seeing that decrease.
I just don't have a good sense of how this office operates. I just don't. And it could be my fault, because maybe I should go down there and visit them, but it seems like we spend a lot of money just making sure we have together voter rolls, Yeah. So.
On to, oh yeah,
I mean, look, shoot, I hope I have this right, looking at property,
Yeah.
page wise. So the total, am I correct? The total is 210,000,
Yes.
okay? It was, 142,000 in 2022. And I don't think the voter registration changed as much as certainly the requirements for the early voting and all that stuff. That certainly was a different change. I don't know how registering voter changed by that much in that period of time. I just don't understand.
I'm
Maybe there's
looking at the
separate-
personnel.
Year, or the salaries changed, what, 40,000 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
40,000?
It went from
No, it
23 to
was
40.
Yeah, it was
and then
23 to
There's slight
Right.
increase this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of actually the function, I mean,
Yeah.
the town hasn't grown a heck of a
Yeah.
lot. I forget what the.
Well, I'm looking at like the big jump 2 years ago was the elections personnel. I mean, that went from 6 to 48. And but we only spent 11. Well, this is not full year. This is a
Yeah.
problem. We can't get the full accounting for it yet.
Yeah. But how, I'm just trying to, how, I mean, under the selected position and stuff like that, what, does this area report up anywhere? except for just showing us the budget?
No, because they're elected, those are two elected positions. Like, I don't oversee
line,
those
yeah.
offices because those are independently elected. It's like the town clerk's office.
Sure.
I don't oversee those operations because she's an independently.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, you know,
know.
and just try to understand. We certainly know what we're supposed to pay the registrars, okay? But what drives the part-time?
Right.
That's what I don't,
So,
and then, and we
yes.
just kind of approve it? How much part-time? I mean, I don't understand.
I mean, maybe, I don't know how much time or where you're at on Thursday, but maybe we have Joan come up
Yep.
and present. Because
that's
that was
fine.
supposed to be what had happened and then she had gotten ill.
Right.
So,
Why don't we do that? That's a good
so-
idea.
Just to, I mean, because it's,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
it's
I
some money,
agree.
you know,
I
for a
agree.
function that is, I don't think that function has changed a lot. We're versus the town clerks.
Right.
did.
The only thing I would say is, and I witnessed it, is that so you added multiple, like, so for both the primaries and there were primaries in
Yeah,
this
there were
year. So you had to have
people there.
people there on Sundays and Saturdays
okay.
and all day long, every day.
Yeah, so that could drive it. Yeah,
For
that's fair.
multiple weeks, and then obviously
Yeah,
for the
that's fair.
general.
So they are actually
For the
impacted by the
districts, that
change.
Increased also
3 to
from
7 or
3 to 6 or 7.
The districts,
Or
so
that
you
un-
need more
that-
people staffing those
Yeah.
districts.
Unintended
Yeah.
consequences of
Yes.
unfunded mandates. I mean,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
mentioned things like, oh, well, it's early voting. Well, no, it's
Right.
not. It's personnel. It's
Yeah.
opening
Yeah,
buildings.
so that
It's
must
closing
be
buildings.
what you're already.
It's
to be fair.
meals.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
the stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
personnel for the elections and then you've got the part-time staff. And so I think that's where she'll need to come in and talk about those.
Yeah, so that's fair. Okay.
Right. I think that's the better distinction is part-time versus elections personnel.
Yeah.
The elections personnel I see.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the part-time that I'm not sure I understand.
And I realize it's not an enormous number, but you know, all these non-enormous numbers add up.
Yeah, but
So-
like in 22, there was no part-time office salary and now we're at, we've brought it down, but it's 15,000.
Yeah.
But if that number is true, Amy, if 2 years we're up 23%, that's significant. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's a lot.
for what's kind of, a very small piece of the whole
Function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Onto the building department. So obviously, one of the biggest initiatives building departments had is OpenGov and the positive impact that's had on building permit speed and streamlining that process and people getting building permits completed much quicker, as Jen kind of talked about during her presentation. And it's kind of been currently and will be an ongoing process of how best to utilize this software, since I know OpenGov has a million facets to it, including in finance and budgeting, and there's always new ways to utilize the tool, and they're always looking into increasing efficiencies by using that. The building department is seeing a reduction of 1.68% of their year-over-year budget. This being led by the salary part-time line is being reduced by 36,000. Obviously, the town is always looking to streamline as many processes as possible and evaluating positions because of those streamlined processes.
So can you tell me, I don't see, it's just a big jump. The full-time salaries is up almost 7%. There's no additional headcount in the full-time.
No, I need to look at that. Those are union positions, so those.
Oh, maybe
are
they step,
Also steps.
they're steps,
and,
okay.
The cost of
All right,
living, so I
got it.
imagine that's what's covering that. Yeah, so that's
Yep.
one, so 2 of the 4 are getting steps and the increase.
Okay, that's why. Right.
So their other main drivers, they're really offsetting each other. Office supplies is down 1,000, bringing it in line with actuals, and voice and data is increasing by 1,000 to support 2 new iPads that the building inspectors will be able to interface with OpenGov while on a job site, which just seems like a sensible thing that they should have been doing all along. I don't know how exactly they were tracking it or interfacing with OpenGov in the field, but it seems like a pretty sensible addition, just to even streamline the process even more.
That's great.
On to the land use department. Land use obviously wrapped up their POCD last year and moving forward into next year with updating zoning regulations. That's going to be one of their major focuses. They're seeing an increase of 2.49% over last year. So pretty small increase, really only of about 14,000, 14.8 thousand, with 14.3 thousand of that being due to salary increases. The only other changes within the lines are professional memberships line increasing 1,000 due to WestCog membership fees being increased. Salaries, office supplies, office supplies being reduced 1,000 to bring it in line with prior year actuals, and voice and data being reduced 2,100 is a 1-year correction that is due to building department and land use used to be one joined department, and when they got split out, I believe voice and data probably got allocated incorrectly, so this is correcting that. Any questions on the land use department?
I'm seeing an increase, $1,000 increase for the building department. Okay. Nope. Okay.
And okay, on to health, pension, and OPEB and insurance. So we kind of went over the contribution to town benefits fund, the insurance, which up 5%. The 401A BOE contributions, that's our contribution to the 401A plan on the BOE side, is up about 11.2%. That was just taken straight from one of our payrolls, our recent payrolls, to be in line with what the actuals are projected to be for next year. The wellness line is up 15,000. Wellness fair takes place every other year, and it previously had been split with the Human Services Department. And so both of those factors combined, we're bringing it into this department, into this line, and its cyclical nature is causing this increase.
You know, Josh, can we go back to the 401A? So
Thank you.
that's a result of the increased staffing, probably, with the additional people, and then they're contributing to their 401 plan. We now have to make our matching.
And also closing the pension to some of those groups.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
As it's gone up on the town side too, so we knew. we'd do that.
Right, okay. Yep.
Other than that, town pension contribution and OPEB, right now they're placeholder flat from last year until we get an updated report from Hooker and Holcomb, which comes in February, March
We should have
time.
it within the next 2 weeks.
And the workers' compensation line, we're bringing down, let me make sure that percentage is in line. This may be a change from what you have in front of you. We're bringing it down, I believe, 100,000 from what was, let's see, what was
Yeah, what
previously
we have is
budgeted.
51 now, yeah.
Right, so in here, it doesn't reflect that because this is an old sheet, but in the updated version, it's down about 100,000, just to reflect the recent positive claim experience we've had while being a fully insured plan.
So more like 830.
Insurance blanket coverage, that's our general liability insurance, is up 3%.
And again, that's an unknown because we don't get those numbers until late
Mm.
March. So
Mhm.
we usually come within 1% either up or down. So we're hoping it'll be.
It'll be before the final budget, though.
Exactly.
So,
Usually with
okay.
the Board of Finance.
okay, great.
And on to the parking department. The parking department is, let's see, they're currently working on preparing an RFP to look for new parking software to kind of help streamline and better the process of permitting and tracking people parking and so on.
At our last meeting, approved a
Short-term,
month-to-month contract so that Stacy can
Bridge.
figure that out.
So the parking department sees an increase of 1.64%, probably the most boring budget to look at. There's only 3 lines that have any changes to them. Full-time salary, social security, and then office supplies. So really, oh, sorry, that's not office supplies, it's
Gasoline.
gasoline and oil. So that's being reduced by 1,000, bringing in line with prior year actuals. Not really much else to talk about in that department. On to a grouping of them. This is debt service, town commissions, which is kind of a new department, contingency and interfund transfers.
What page, where are we? Where, because this doesn't have page numbers. What is it at?
Page 20
So
should be.
these don't have page numbers on them, so.
Oh, sorry.
um, Is it at, what is it after? I'm at,
Towards, it should be the last page of expenditures.
okay. Oh, wait. I think I see it. Awesome. Thank you.
So
Yep.
debt service, right now we're seeing a decrease of 0.7%, 0.79%. Right now we're keeping debt service, the bonding and principal, the principal and interest flat. And that's kind of our goal. We'll know better what those numbers will exactly be when we actually complete our bonding activities in March, hopefully.
So you didn't include, you didn't include what we're going out to bond for in March in these
Yes,
numbers?
And we
It
have
is-
I'm basing it on what's coming off. What's
Okay.
coming off and what
Okay,
I'm
great.
looking to
So
bond like
you have-
34
yep.
million.
Great.
We got a lot rolling off in principle. right?
Yeah, this year,
was
in 26, we have a lot, and then it gets stagnant for a year or two, and then maybe another 2 million the year after.
Until we add to it.
3 million to bond
Where you,
right now.
we'll,
So
we'll fill that hole. Yeah.
So the only change here is really the BOE IT tech lease. That was a leased item, and now we're kind of going to bond for it for better rates and better access for them. So that line is coming down by about 150,000.
That's great. I mean, thank you for, I don't know who, Anne, thank you for, looking at that, because we've been leasing IT equipment for as long, since was on the Board of Ed, and, if we can do
Yeah,
it
forever.
more
Yep.
cost
Save a little bit.
effectively.
it was the biggest problem, even though cheaper is a better.
Yeah.
We're getting that aspect as well, of having lower rates, but the Board of Ed was struggling to get their equipment by the time the lease was actually put in place.
That's great.
So-
Well, thank you for
And again, we amortize
a
this
good,
fast.
a good instance of the town
Yeah.
working with with the Board of Ed to.
Yeah, but we're not pushing out our debt. We're doing it reflective of the useful life.
Useful life, exactly.
So there's an additional department here called Town Commissions, which houses the Conservation Commission, which got moved from its own department, as well as the Utilities Commission, which is a new addition here. The Utilities Commission on I guess on the sheets you're looking at now should be 27,250, which reflects technology assessment for the town network and network modeling, as well as workstation hardware, software for coverage monitoring of those systems. And I think that's a new initiative that's taking place from the Utilities Commission.
That was their request.
How about in terms of commissions? How about from the Affordable Housing Commission? Did they have
They didn't
have
put
they
any-
requested anything?
No, they did not.
Okay.
Yeah. They
So
just
that's-
have a-
yeah.
Yep. No request.
So, we basically put 2 commissions in with pretty big
Yep.
Task.
job descriptions,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
On to the contingency lines. Our normal contingency line is flat at about 350,000. We're at exactly 350,000. Our salary contingency line is right now it's at 341,000, which includes non-union town hall members COLA or non-union COLA, some fire steps and their COLAs, some police steps and their COLAs, as well as the 261 budgeted days within FY26. That extra day amounts to something. And the volunteer tax abatement should be 85,000, I believe.
Yeah, we have a lot more volunteers coming in on again. We're over budget for 25, which we covered. But we have more members coming on, which is a good thing.
And the operating transfer, which is for tax supported capital, is at, let me see. Right now it's at 1.785, but that number is coming down with the removal of, or rather the reallocation of about 240,000 to the sewer fund. So that's just coming right off. And when we are looking at analyzing the extra duty fund, as well as any sort of bond premium to offset some of our other capital projects costs for tax supported capital, that number will come down over the coming months. Any questions on these four?
I got distracted. I apologize. I was checking something. So the contingency, the salary contingency, we brought that down from what it was originally because we have embedded some of the guesstimate for the cost.
The main one is really the DPW union was built into there.
Right.
Because we didn't have it settled and ready to go. But that came off, so we offset there, as well as adding some of the projected increases into fire and police.
Yeah, just as a whole, so to more reflect potential all-in costs of those. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And on to the revenue side of things.
Yes, revenues, we like those.
So starting with the finance department, the interest on investments is at 1.8 million. That's been brought down from the 2 million that was projected for this year. This is a number given by the treasurer, averaging 3 forecasting models that he uses. He goes into a lot of depth during a presentation for the Board of Finance that I'm sure he'll go into in a month or so. But this is his anticipation of the market conditions next year. Grants as a whole are kind of a little difficult for us because we wait on the governor's biennial budget. And since this is year 1 of the 2-year budget, we don't know exactly when it's coming, but it's hopefully coming within the next month or so. So a lot of those are just flat placeholder numbers until we get that information.
We hear those were going down though,
The
the ECS grants.
ECS possibly.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I thought I heard.
yeah, from the board, yep, possibly.
Trying.
Rental of property within finance is increasing due to the closure and integration of the rental property fund. And so that's increasing by about 82,000. To the tax assessor and collector. Those are really numbers that are determined A, by the overall expenditure budget, and B, by in the tax assessor's line, a grant that we don't know the number for yet, so we're keeping it flat at 28,000. In the town clerk's budget, she is increasing the budget for conveyance fees by 100,000 to 1.6 million, and we've been seeing good performance on conveyance fees over the past year or so. We are seeing a decrease in MERS town fees, and vital stats, we're seeing an increase in 5,000, and copier revenue, a decrease in 2,000, really bringing it in line with FY24 actuals and projections for this current year. And after that, we have building and land use departments. And the building departments also is seeing good performance on building permits this year. So we're increasing that by 50,000 to bring it kind of in line with projected actuals and trends. Zoning permits is also seeing a small increase in zoning. Land use is seeing a small increase in zoning permits by about 6,000 or so. OpenGov has really kind of increased the successful collection of these fees. And so that just sees a small uptick there. And on to parking. Parking, we're budgeting about 4.85% increase. Tickets is up 25,000, just following the trends of what we've been seeing. Meters are also up 25,000, bringing it in line with where we are now. We believe it's because pay by phone kind of facilitates easier renewal and payment for parkers, so they can just quickly add on to that. And that filters into the meters line. Boxcar, we're seeing a reduction of about 6,000 to reflect actuals. It may have to do with a reduction in work from home days, because if 4 days in office, then you are more likely to get parking permits and less likely to use Boxcar. So we have been seeing permits uptick, so that this may be kind of an offset on that.
The number of spaces hasn't changed. That's remained
I
the
don't
same.
think so, no. Yeah. Insurance liability and miscellaneous. Oh, it just skips it right there. The only real drops, operating transfer in, that was from bond premium last year. That was from the closure of the dog fund last year, as well as the ARPA.
Where are we? Sorry. what-
Sorry, it's in miscellaneous
Okay.
revenue. So it's 2.7 million that is not there. There will be a number in there once we know how much bond premium we're going to get from bonding in March.
Yeah, and we're gonna close before the Board of Finance votes.
Mm.
That's the plan.
So that'll,
Josh, can I just take you back because I think if I was looking at the revenue summary page that's in the book,
Hmm.
And that was total non-current tax revenues, which last year was 11.8. Now
Yes.
we're dropping it 9.2. Is that, we're reflecting this?
yep, pretty
Okay.
much. That's
So,
about.
so in fact, we will have some money from the bond premium.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is like, if I look at this roughly, okay, approximately $800,000 brings our rate of increase on the budget down by 0.5%.
Mhm.
You know, so, because we're at what, 4.5 right here, so just in terms of, and then of course that triggers into the mill rate, just looking where we have some help, on this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, everybody makes a terrific case for their spending, no one's asking, for, gold-plated stuff, but it's a big, it's a big operational increase where we are right now.
Mhm.
So we do have some, we'll have some level of offset.
Yeah, if we get at least, like you said, 1.6, I was just doing calculations this morning with Josh. If we get a 1.6 premium, that's your percent right there. Um,
That helps a
So-
lot.
I'm sorry, can we go back to the insurance liability, the offset, the workers' comp offset and the member equity numbers?
Sure. So I think we felt that those aren't really numbers that we should be budgeting for.
Okay.
So the actual checks, the reimbursements
Yep.
for the workers' comp checks,
Mhm.
they would typically go in there, but they really should go into the department that's covering that position. So
Okay.
their overtime is going up
Okay,
and we're putting the revenue in a different
Okay.
location.
okay.
So when we have
D-
someone
And so
else,
we didn't really budget for that within the departments though this year either. Okay, okay, so we may see some.
it'll reduce some of the cost to cover those positions if it's there, or DPW, whoever it is.
I will be watching that line then. Okay, great.
All right. And so general government does have a couple capital projects. The recurring ones for IT hardware, software, and WAN hardware, software have actually been reduced from last year. Right now they're at 40,000 and 30,000. And for parking, they are looking to put 9 pay machines, mostly on Elm, and I think 1 on South. And that's about $91,000 for this project.
82.
That got increased. But
Oh, it did?
it's 91.1.
Oh, is that in,
Anyone want, it's the new.
okay, sorry, I'm looking.
In the back,
Okay, that's fine, but it was in something you sent us. Okay, that's right, because it was an additional, this was the old one. We needed one more once we walked it. Yep. Okay. Okay.
any questions?
Any questions, anybody?
Very thorough, Josh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
So that leads us to sort of any discussion, because we're going to be voting on Thursday before this gets sent to the Board of Finance for their review. Are there any areas, I think we can start, the police are here, so I told John to come because we moved some things. I mean, are there any questions for them about any pieces of their budget before? I don't want to keep them here any longer.
I didn't get to review the page, so their prospective budget, if we build it, I think it's in here somewhere. If we build in some level of increase in salary, which we will get out of, where does that come in? The police and that's with an assumption.
Top of my head, I think it was 5.6, but the
Yeah, I'm
chief
looking.
had 5.7. Just trying to help you out. But the chief had proposed some reductions that brought it to, I believe, 5.2.
There we go.
You gave us this morning, still 5.78, it looks like.
So that doesn't integrate the proposed changes. I didn't know honestly if those were finalized numbers, so I wanted to hold off on putting them in there. Didn't know if maybe you had more to give.
Yeah. Next time we have to have numbers on these sheets because I can't, I am like all
Oh,
over the
page numbers,
place.
sorry.
Yes, I'm like, where the hell? I'm going back to the old budget because I can at least follow it, but, okay. All right.
Okay.
5.5 savings to
But they're not the bottom.
5.28 is where we're here now, right? Is that the
So,
idea?
so what are the offsets you might have?
What's the question?
So there's, you said it was 5.28 was the. new number.
5.28.
What's?
So
bringing it down?
we reduced some of the mandatory firearms training that we're going to get next year. I was told that we could move those two into a special project that would be covered with some other funds. So I took that out of my operating budget. That was roughly 65,000.
There's they have to, they're getting all these new firearms and everybody has to be trained and it's
Never
not
you
a
forget that.
recurring. So it's, I think from a looking budget to budget, it'll be better in a comparison sense.
And where are we gonna fund it from where?
Special.
Special projects.
Our ARPA funds?
Yeah.
I put that in a money market. You're allowed to actually invest, even though it's grant funds, you're allowed to invest those funds. So I put ARPA in a money market and we generated approximately 300,000 in interest.
Excellent.
And it confirmed with our auditors that they're not required to turn back on a grant. You actually can use it for other projects. So this is a perfect
That's good
reason
news.
to stop that fluctuation in the general fund for a one-time only major training.
Right.
That would be perfect for.
Good news.
So, so, you made 300-ish, right? And 65 is going here. Can that 225 go into the budget somewhere else to help us?
We were looking at other items that are those one-time onlys to try and keep. So that's what we're looking at right now to see what else is in there that's going to cause that blip for a 1 year to try and keep it steady. So we are looking at that.
Okay, so we might have 250.
Yeah,
less.
worst case, it could go against the approved tax supported capital down the road.
Sure.
So we could reduce it definitely from there,
Right.
but trying to see if there's any operating lines that are showing that type of.
Yeah,
an
that
increase
are odd.
Right.
Yeah.
Flow. Otherwise then tax supported would be the offset, would be the other item.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, so if you get 250-ish, I'll round up a little bit, sorry. And then, I'm sorry, these aren't police things, so I can wait on this,
Okay.
but I'll wait, sorry.
So the 65 is, we're getting all the guys trained, for this, whatever the new upgrade is. That's the idea.
Correct. Yeah, it's a new firearm with a new sighting system. So it's going to require at least 2 days of two full days of training for each officer. So it's 2 days of training for 50 officers. So
It's
it's a good chunk of money. Yeah.
And where is that held? Is that held locally or the
Unfortunately, that'll be in Wallingford.
Wallingford? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. So there's 2 hours of travel time usually.
more support for Newtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That helps. That helps.
No other changes though? That's really
That was mostly it. I did not prepare a lot of extra.
Yeah. What did
It's
it,
in
I
my
didn't look,
budget.
where's fire? So where did fire end up going up? So are they, my number is, my things, is that the one right above EMS? So would that be right above EMS? Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, so they went from like 1 something to 285
285, yeah.
based on this.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Also, just to clarify, so because we're in a temporary building, I have not had a maintenance person for 1.5 years. So I'm adding that full-time salary. I budgeted 88,000 for that in this budget, which wasn't there previously. And also the utility costs have gone up
It's an
dramatically
allocation.
from being in a rental building to moving back to the police department. So those costs have significantly risen. If you take out those And also some service contracts. One service contract was in capital for some reason. I think that was just due to the initial purchase of the body cameras, the state mandated body cameras. That was in capital previously. We've moved that into our service contract under operating. So with those three things, if we remove them, I would have been closer to a 3% increase. But because we're moving back to the new building,
Yeah.
you're seeing a little higher bump in
Kind of a
our,
reset year.
That's so there'd be a full-time custodial person there. It's
probably gonna be more of a facility manager's
Yeah,
position
it's a
with
huge
all the
role.
complex systems that are in the new building. It's not just sweeping floors. It's
Yeah.
managing and maintaining HVAC systems, boilers, and some pretty significant and specialized equipment. So we had to make a salary. We had to make a salary that would attract the right person for that job.
Great,
All right, thank you.
thanks.
All right, so, because we're gonna be voting on Thursday, I want to sort of like kind of flesh out any of the other items on the budget that we may want to discuss so that, anybody that has an issue.
Before we go to capital,
Yeah.
can we just, I'm just trying to think really kind of where we end up
Mhm.
with the budget. Reason, and I understand numbers aren't in because you don't know what they're going to be.
The revenues aren't there.
Yeah, so from stuff that'll pull down. the costs. So perhaps we have another 200, 250 from the earnings off the ARPA money that can be put somewhere. We'll definitely have some bond premium number, which can be, you're bonding, how much are you bonding?
I'm looking to do 34 million,
Do you have a guess what type of premium? A guess?
probably 1.9.
Okay.
If say, I actually sent an email last week that hopefully there's some closings going on right now with
Yeah.
some other municipalities to, it's similar to us, AAA, to see what type of premiums they're getting. and
Yeah,
I'll let you
because,
know soon,
because
but-
I think that the interest rate is about 4%, but they always go out with 5% bonds people like, so you get that premium.
Right.
So I'm just saying plus or minus 1.5 million, let's just plus or minus. So if that's 175, again, at 800,000 equal and a half percentage
that's
points. So
1%.
that burdens us down almost a full percentage point.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the investment earnings assumption, which I know they brought down, but we're not seeing interest rates come down. I mean, interest rates are holding. So, I wonder if there might be some, and I know you want to be conservative in this, but that we might not have to bring. I mean, that's a question to go back to kind of the group that looks at it, but that might give us some breathing room, but I do think it would not be unfair. And I can see that you're not putting the numbers in now, but as we move this budget forward, and if we just kept everything as operating, I think the point you probably want to make in your statement is that we fully expect that there may be up to X amount of revenues. We don't know exactly what they're going to be, but that will offset some of this increase. Just from, if people are watching, the taxpayers, like we're trying to be judicious in pulling this down. And like operating budgets, we don't get to opine on the Board of Ed. So that's just not our thing. But just in terms of operating, those were kind of things I was just trying to go,
So the latest number this morning, Josh, that you gave us is exactly what? So we're gonna apply this one.
For the-
So the overall.
Overall
yeah.
operating expense is right now is at 4.49.
4.49.
Be about 220,000 coming off of there for the sewer capital projects that are being transferred, kind of moved to the sewer fund instead of hitting this.
Okay.
That'll be closer to that number.
Probably changes, all it might be 2 million if we have between that change, 1.5, 1.6 on premium. if
That
we
helps.
added, And then.
Now you're down to,
now you're like, you're in the forest.
3.49.
yeah, you're getting
A little
closer to
less
the,
than 3.49.
you're getting closer to
like,
the 3 number that we really all want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fair. It's fair to not put it in now when we look at it.
Right,
And it's
right,
fair
right,
to kind of
right,
like
right.
look at
They've
this.
got a whole 2 months and there's
Yeah.
insurance stuff that'll come
Yeah,
in,
right.
that'll,
And then also Josh goes out to the departments for tax supported and premium
Mhm.
Right.
projects that are funded from those to know what projects are done so we can reallocate those, because bond premium at that stage can't be used for interest. It can only be used for another authorized project. So we can use them for tax supported projects as well if we authorize them. So there's little changes.
So that's another little
Another little thing out there that we keep on, we watch as we go along and as we get closer, so we can get these projects closed to reallocate those funds.
Yeah, and therefore we don't have to pay for it on a current basis, yeah, which would be great.
Another piece.
But to your point, Amy,
This makes me feel better.
When we pass it, and when we pass it to the Board of Finance, sending the message of this is where we are, but our expectation is that we can get somewhere in that neighborhood. That's what we should be
Yeah.
passing along.
And
that's-
we have all sat through everyone's
Yeah.
presentation, you
Right,
know, so
right.
we get it. And I was trying to look at, you know, where we're changing staffing at the town, you know, because I mean, a lot of this goes back to staffing, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's not like staffing is throwing away money. It's what gives us our services.
right.
It's what we do. So from the town, I came up with somewhere like, you know, maybe we're adding 2.1. We got the purchasing
We could
person.
do a
We're
summary,
offsetting some
we'll do a
stuff.
summary for that for you for Thursday.
Yeah,
That would be
Yeah,
great.
Of the up
Yeah.
and down, just the line items quickly and what
Right.
that dollar effect could be.
And we did ask.
Full-time and part-time.
Like a FTE, like a FTE, remember?
Well, no,
Or-
because part-time isn't in FTEs.
Okay, yeah.
so.
right. And then I think, you know, we requested a similar from the Board of Ed. Again, we don't opine on their budget, but I think that'd be something very helpful for them to move forward to the Board of Finance and Town Council, like, you know, how their staffing has changed from 2000 to now, that numbers and where they've gone. Many of these things we've approved. I'm not saying
Yep.
but,
Yep.
you know, that versus our enrollment, just in terms of,
And we asked Brian to show that, and he had those nice graphs, but showing that on that chart would be important.
just one, the graphs are lovely, that
Yeah.
it's a percent here in this department. I want the numbers,
Yeah,
you know,
true,
like,
that's
you know, we have this many people and we've added this many in for these purposes, just a straight boom number. But from a operating, those are kind of my thoughts on there. In the capital.
All right, so is that where we want to go next?
Capital.
Capital?
Kind of wrote down the capital. Which one do
They starts in 120.
126, I think.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So. So do we just want to go through, you know, quickly line, but, you know, department to by
Department by department,
department,
yeah.
just if anybody has any concerns? I don't have anything in any
No. I think in
IT, parking, fire. Okay, so we have 450, and the only thing that new was this pickup truck from the 5-year capital plan, but it sounded like that was, to me, fine. And they were, let's see, PD, there was just those vehicles, but that's just on their
That's what we
normal,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
normal service plan. Public Works Town Buildings.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. So, I think, you know, we've got that. I am fully in support of the Waveney House exterior repairs, the 245. I would like to keep that in there. So this is where it's confusing because Powerhouse is in there a few different times. So there's 200, 500, and 65. We have 3 different line items with the Powerhouse. We've got the 200 for the theater. We've got 500 for the annex, and then 65 for the potting shed.
Okay, so my thought on this is, and I know people are working very hard on this, I get it. And the project's evolved dramatically since it was in cost, since it was first put forth. I think it was in the 1.25 initially, and now it's almost 3 million. And the town has already committed between ARPA funds and just bonding to, I believe, 750 down there. Do I have that right? About 750
Yeah,
plus or
if you-
minus.
yeah, if you, depends on what you take in, but yes,
Yeah.
8, you know.
And, you know, I don't feel comfortable doubling our contribution because I don't really know where the status of it is. I don't have a sense that there's, the donors have been identified for the additional amount. And, you know, it expanded in a way that it added $1 million for an education center that we don't really have a program in place. Not that it couldn't be, but it doesn't. And I try to think about it in terms of how many people it serves, you know? So just balancing that. And perhaps a way to look at it is kind of how we've done it with like the Athletic Foundation. Like the Athletic Foundation, they threw out a project, okay? And we came to some sort of agreement what funding match would be. But until any money, the entire additional match in cash was in place, we didn't move forward on it. And that there were required two things. So we require us to say, hey, how much do we want to put in this? But then also, you know, what the total cost would be. So, you know, right now, the cost estimate is assuming we pick up 50% for the town or the proposal. And I'm just, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that.
Well, so we could, I mean, I think you had it is a consistent approach, and pulling it out of the budget cycle and having it as a special appropriation once they've sort of fundraised for, you know, I mean, I think the grant funding didn't come in where we thought it was going to come in. So there's a shortfall there. And, you know, I think we've gotten into trouble where we go down the road of continuing, you know, I mean, I saw this with the Athletic Foundation where we, you know, went down the road, we didn't have quite all the funding in place. And then you're coming back at the last hour saying we need more funding and everybody's unhappy. Whereas if we move it off cycle, they have time to sort of fundraise and really kind of, you know, get all the loose ends tied up. And then come back off cycle to the various boards, showing where they are fundraising and, you know, a better.
But
I mean,
it require us to have, I think to do that, like a direction in what level of match are we willing to do right now? So our initial match, it's been years, you know, but it was like, we took some ARPA money and part of it was doing the bathrooms, which is kind of on us,
Yeah, that's
right?
on us.
That's our gig.
Yeah.
But then everything changed around and, you know, so it was like, I think we were in saying, we'll do 750 when we thought it was a 1.2, $1.3 million project, right? Which was a big contribution, but now it's jumped in terms of what it would be. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of what percentage of potential town contribution would we like to have in reserve if they're able to raise all of it. And then we don't spend any of our money at all till that's what we did for the foundation.
Yeah, well,
Nothing got spent.
That's the way all projects will work. I mean, you can't put a shovel in the ground on town property
Yeah.
until that money's in the bank. So that's a given. The question, and that came up with Mike Benevento and the Athletic Foundation, was he was looking for a signal from the town and the confidence to go to his donors and say, hey, listen, our partners, the town, are committed at this level. And, you know, we need to raise the difference. And to your point, it's important for us to all agree that we want this to happen. But there's a cadence to how it's going to happen. And, you know, what you said before about making sure that they know that we're in at 50% or whatever that number is important to them in terms of raising the money, the rest of the money. So
Yeah, and it has to be like it can't be like, oh, the numbers come in higher, so therefore your percentage goes. It's like this, because this happened. This project got much more expensive, like by, you know, almost, I don't know if it's quite double, but it did. You know, so it's
well, as the plans evolved, I mean, to
Yeah,
be
no,
fair, it started off, hey, we need a new roof, basically. And then it started into a lobby. And, so, you know, if you're going to rip into a building, you got to, we've seen this so many times, you got to do it right. You don't want to go back and do it 3 times.
I agree, but then there is something like, what's enough?
Yeah.
It's like I always say, I would love a 3-car garage. I get by with the 2, you know? And this is, you know, taxpayer money.
Well, and yeah, and that's why raising those extra funds to get those nice to haves, if there is going to be an educational component to this, I mean, that's part of the responsibility of going out and raising that money. I mean, that's, you know.
Well, and I think, I mean, Patricia had said that there is an opportunity for potentially more grant money coming in. So I think, you know, if we push this to sort of seeing when the more, you know, what you can get from the state, because I know you're working to get additional grant funding. We might have our grant funder back in soon, so. Um,
But that also, the flip side too, we do have to kind of come up with, not just us, Board of Finance, Town Council,
mhm.
you know, if the project, let's say it's all in 3 million, you know, it's close, right? 2.7 or whatever.
Right.
How much should we commit to? Right.
Mhm.
So I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I'm not sure what I feel comfortable with, just in terms of as we spend money, it's like you want to support everything, but I think you have to try to spend it where it impacts the most people. Like, for instance, I think the pickleball courts.
Mhm.
Look, the taxpayers of this community use those, and a lot of people will use them. So it's like I'm completely fine with those. But, you know, I don't know how big the segment of the town population.
Well, I think one of the points of this project is by doing that
Mm-hmm.
renovation, you're going to attract a much broader, bigger audience to that
Mhm.
facility than you have in the past too,
Right.
because it will be a much nicer place to go and.
Oh, yeah,
you
so
know,
the
production will
location's
be-
beautiful.
yeah.
I mean, you know, so.
But, you know, you're right. We can't pay for everything, you know, all the time. That's the hardest part of this job, is to try to figure out the needs immediately and then the next step. So this synopsis that we looked at this morning, just, you know, going through where we are currently on the project, and that was helpful to see that as well. But if the number is 3 million, if it's up at the 2.7 area, and, you know, we see this all the time, if it's 2.7 in January of 2025, by the time we actually do it.
Yeah.
it's probably,
Well,
you
I
know,
mean, I think quite frankly, that's already what's happened in the money that was allocated initially for just the pared down project. You know, I think, you know, talking to Tiger yesterday, what we thought was going to get just the lobby done is no longer really relevant. Those costs have expanded, right, Tiger, correct? So, you know, we haven't even allocated enough from our prior allocations to do what we thought we were going to be able to do a few years ago. So I think,
Yeah, but the new design did expand, and I think it's that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the new quote education center
Right.
that wasn't there, and you get a view of
Right.
the pond. Yeah, it's
Right.
all great.
Right.
There's not really,
Right. Right.
that's just new, and that's like $1 million.
yeah, well, and I was hoping maybe we could phase it, but in talking with
think, yeah.
Patricia, that doesn't really sound like a great option. Sure, sure. Come up to the, yeah.
Mike's on, thank you. So the numbers, right? 2.9, you're right, includes 1,650,000 for the lobby, which includes the ADA restrooms, which is what started the whole project. So on that is where we've asked the town, in matching the 50-50 would be an additional 200,000. And then the 500,000 was specifically for the education center, which we're really committed to raising those funds. And again, the state has indicated that we should apply for the balance of the $500,000 that we were looking for. So, and then there's work that the town needs to do just to improve the overall courtyard, which I think is the other 65,000. I'm speaking for Tiger that's in there. So if I were to prioritize
Come up too. Because I mean,
us to you, it would be today in the budget, or approve the 200,000 for the lobby, because then what we need to continue to raise for that is the 125, which I'm fairly confident we could do in the short term. And that would allow us to actually go out to bid and get a firm amount while we continue to do planning and fundraising on the education center. And that the $100,000 grant we got from the state is specifically for that other building, for the annex to make the education center. So that, if you were to think about it in those two buckets, then that's what I would ask you to do, because again, it would help us with the fundraising, as you pointed out.
So if we were to, instead of doing the 765 request in the 3 buckets, if we brought that down to 200,
265, so Tiger can do the work he needs to do on the rest of the campus.
That 65 was
you
for the
can't-
potting shed.
yeah,
It wasn't
I
for-
don't think we need to get that. That 65 we don't need because that's a totally separate building for the potting shed. So that doesn't help you.
It does though.
Well, it helps you get to the next phase, but it doesn't, you don't need it for the first phase.
It-
I think.
It would be where our office would go, right? That was the plan for
Right.
the potting shed. All right. So that would be another way to look at this. And then when we can, as we continue to raise funds for the education center, and if we can reserve the right to come back out of cycle.
Yeah.
Then we would do that.
Yeah, I guess my view is that I would be like, all right, the costs have gone up. Big surprise, right? So I would be inclined to recommend the 200,000, the 65, we can figure out somewhere else in that. But I personally think the whole, the whole education center, I would put on you guys because it's very different from what we first put forward. And part of it is because it makes the building pretty and stuff like that and useful. But I think I would, from a town's commitment,
That can be an off cycle, like, and then it's a full relook at.
But I don't know, can you have this whole cohesive plan? The question is, can you do some of the improvements without filling all those buckets? I mean. so-
For the annex in particular, we are working with our architects to look at alternative approaches for that.
Yeah.
Which would be either less costly or allow us to do that in phases while not, while supporting the overall idea that we have for the campus. So
And
we're
let's just
working
be
through
clear,
those options.
If we do this and expand the building, okay, and I know some of it's like old and needs to be fixed, that building stays on us, okay? That is like, we make a bigger building, it's ours. Just, we have to realize that it's our building. So, but for the use of a tenant, but
But you'd get a new building. That's the other thing. Right now, it's a 40-year-old building built like a house. It wasn't really built for public use.
yeah, we
So-
have a lot of that. We have a lot of that going on there. Patricia.
Stay tuned for a later conversation.
Exactly. I mean, I
No, it was built in a different era, different, without the same planning and zoning restrictions that are in place now.
yeah,
But
and
there's-
it
there's-
was a powerhouse.
There's part of me that is, over the years, you get certain projects that come back and then come back and, you really want them to succeed. And this is one of those, and I feel bad. Tigers presented these bathrooms at that location. It seems like 1917, we've been talking about this. It's crazy how long we've talked about getting bathrooms in that building.
It's like putting a bathroom in New York City. It's impossible, right?
So we've got to figure this out. And there's definitely a need for bathrooms there just for starters, right? So there's a cost to the town, including the potting shed that we own. The courtyard's ours. We own that whole thing, right? So I know we talk about this 50-50 deal, but we've got to look at this project, separate what we think as a town we own. So put that aside. Then we look at the project that the powerhouse wants to do. And if we are a 50-50, what's that number? And I don't know that we actually have that number. So, I view this as the town owns the responsibility for the bathrooms, the potting shed, in the courtyard probably, because those are all things that we as a town use. I mean, there are going to be people that are going to go there that may not go to a show, but they're going to enjoy those facilities. So I think we're in at 100% there, and then we split the rest. That's the way I would approach this, but that's me.
Yeah, where I'm pulling back on is what we initially thought, it got bigger. And so I'm back to that. We originally presented, the costs have gone up, let's cover it. But I'm not necessarily sold on having the town have the entire expense for the education center, which was not in what we talked about in the first place. That's an expansion of a project as opposed to, what's been going on. That's where I come from.
Well, I'm only looking for half. I'm only looking for half of that, though, right? So if we agree to split the cost of that plant, if you will, whatever the powerhouse is, I'm looking for half of that. So if that education is part of that half, then so be it. But what is that number?
Do you not agree to disagree on this?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's up to you.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, no, of course. My name is Edel Flynn and I'm a New Canaan resident. And I have 3 children, the younger 2 of which were in the Powerhouse, the best Christmas pageant ever this year. They're 6 and 7, my younger 2, and they got to be a part of a show in a community, and they have friends from that show they were the youngest. There was 17 children in the cast, and as well as an array of adults who they're amateur actors, not full-time professional actors, but it was a wonderful experience for my children. And I've just come to support Patricia on this project recently. And I just wanted to say that I really do see value in this town. As a parent of young children in this town, I see the value in this annex. I think calling it an education center might be something we need to look at, because from the way it has been described to me, it is actually much more. And I'm not here to convince you to put 500,000 back in the budget today. I just want to say that I'm listening and I appreciate your concerns. And I do think that we as a group and for the town players will have the ability to address those and give you more comfort around how the taxpayers would benefit from the investment that the town might make in this building. One other thing that I just wanted to make before I give you back the floor is to say that the reason the potting shed needs to be renovated is because the current office in the building, which is beside the current lobby and the 2 tiny little toilets that are there at the moment, all of that becomes the lobby and the ACA approved toilets. So there would be no office if you just put in the new toilets. And that's why I think that you should consider approving the 65,000 as well as the 200,000 for the 2026 to budget. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, we're not voting today, but I
Yeah.
think, I think we need to have, some thoughtful, because
It's coming quick.
yeah, Thursday is the decision. So,
Mhm.
I think we need to kind of thoughtfully think about how we want to approach this. So sorry, he left. It's like I look up and you're gone. Sorry. It's like, so the 200 plus the 65 is the addition required to get to the ADA bathrooms, the renovated lobby space, and the potting shed to be completed.
At present, yeah, we still have to do some additional structural analysis inside the potting shed, but that's why we added the 65,000.
So that's,
How many square feet is that potting shed? Little, right?
It's not that big, but I don't know what off the top of my head. I don't want to guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute, but.
That's why I added the
65 really
60.
doesn't get you an office. That's just like,
65 was for the shell, not for the office. The office is on the fit out of the office is on the town
oh,
players.
okay.
We just gave,
Does that give them power and?
it would get them power, it would get them with that, that's on their fit out. Ours is just basically saying that we're going to give you a shell with a floor,
Yeah,
a suitable
65,000,
shell with a
it's not-
floor.
I know, I'm just
it's
like,
not-
that,
it's not enough.
okay. So that's an additional fund, right? In addition to
That's-
the 100 and well, the 400 that they didn't get, then they need to find additional money for the fit out of the potting shed.
The 400 that they didn't get
Or
From the
they
bonding.
hope to get, they hope to get 500.
for the lot. That was for the annex. That had
That's what I'm
nothing to do
saying.
with.
It's so if we put in the 265 to finish the annex and the potting shed office fit out, they still have to raise, in addition to the 400 they didn't get from the state, they also have to raise money for the fit out of the potting shed to be an office.
We have that funds.
Right.
We have those funds. For the potting shed, we have the funds. The 200,000 is specifically to contribution from the town is for the lobby and the ADA bathrooms in the lobby.
But it says here, at least on an old form I have, unless you've funded it since this previous this was in January, this was updated in January, said you needed 125 more to go
That's right. So
for the potting shed and
it's for
office.
that whole thing, for the lobby.
Yep.
The ADA bath, our theater
Okay.
bathrooms and the potting shed, we need 125,000 more.
Okay,
So that's still a goal, but I think that's very achievable, and that's got nothing to do with the state grant.
okay,
The state grant we did receive was 100% for the annex, if you will, for the rehearsal space, the
Yeah.
other public space.
so that, but then we look, so then down below, if I look at phase 2 for the exterior potting shed renovation, there's another 250 in there.
So that 250 was for the potting shed shell and the floor and the exterior bathrooms for park users. So about $100,000 for the shell of the
In
potting
addition
shed.
to the 65, because it's really, like you just told me 65 was for the shell. So you're
right.
really, it's 165 for the shell.
That's correct. Yeah, I already have 100. I needed 65 more. We already have that 250 that was allocated back in fiscal 23, fiscal
Long time ago.
24.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that was allocated
Okay.
back then. So
Okay.
that money's there, but we know now that
Oh, I
there's
see,
some
yeah.
structural issues with the potting shed. Basically, it's framing on the inside now that we've taken down some walls on the inside to take a look. So we know we need some additional
Let
monies
me
for
just
that.
back it up you. They changed what they were gonna do. We
Yeah.
funded, we're do the bathrooms at the potting shed, and then they looked at the whole thing and they said, that's kind of not a good idea. We should move the bathrooms over there. And then, so the whole,
Yeah,
it's very iterative.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
so.
Which is why I'm confused.
It's going through about 2 or 3 different phases to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it is quite confusing. We
Let me,
apologize.
let me make sure I get this in terms of how much we've already committed, like for the whole project. So,
This is probably better.
yeah,
for it
so
here.
we funded, have we funded?
It's probably better to look at it here.
Yeah.
The bonded.
The
The
potting
ARPA
shed
and
250, the ARPA, that's 250. Have we already put 897,000?
We've allocated
We've
it, we bonded
allocated.
it, we bonded all of it. So 897.54 or whatever it's been bonded or.
Or the ARPA
fund.
money
Yep,
sitting over
yep,
where it's supposed to be,
yep.
yeah. Or
Exactly.
we committed to bond it, we don't bond
And
it
then
till we
there's
actually do
another,
it, yeah.
the lobby.
It's a lot easier to think of the project knowing that we've already set that 900,000 aside. I mean,
Well, we've set, actually, we've set 500 aside and we've committed to bond 250.
okay.
So,
Well, you're talking about
the
including the
ARPA,
ARPAs.
ARPA is 250 and 250. That's kind of, we moved that over and that's sitting there with Ann taking care of it.
And you
We'll
remember
find-
those conversations. I mean, the town was 100% behind getting that done. I mean, we were, and here we are in 2025 thinking.
But
how
to
is it
be fair,
possible?
that's not what we agreed to. We agreed to put bathrooms in at the potting shed.
Right.
That precipitated the larger conversation of the whole complex. So it's not like we've changed our view. It's things have evolved. So it's not like we said, we're going to spend 250 and we're going to trigger a $3 million renovation that we're on hook for half. That's not what we did. I do remember that. But really, if we, to be clear, if we're really more in for, if the total number allocated is 897,000, we would be committing another 200,000 to this project. Right. So just, so which gets us up to 1.1-ish million, right? On this.
Right.
Right. Which covers, if you didn't do, if it, Theater Arts Education Center, which is $1 million, if you take that out, then we're covering, more than 50% of the project. Now, some of it is our responsibility because it's bathrooms, but it's not like our contribution is stingy.
No, but that's why I want to back out. To be fair, I want to back the towns, what we would do anyway, out of that number. And
It was 250.
then
We would do the
then
bathrooms.
do the analysis based on that. Well, I think it's more than 250.
No, didn't we think we could get the bathrooms done for 250?
Talking the exterior bathrooms?
Yeah.
the exterior bathrooms, the allotment was $250,000 for the bathrooms and the potting shed together. It's 150 for the exterior bathrooms and 100 for the potting shed was what our estimate was
Right.
back in 23.
And then I guess we would have had to do ADA bathrooms, but that blew it all up in terms of where you could put it and stuff like that. I mean, blew it
Right.
up, it made it all complicated. So I think what you're, Steve, is saying, Steve, is just if we were just putting the bathrooms in the two places, which you kind of can't even look at it that way because it was,
Right.
you know, that our obligation would have been somewhere in the 3 to 4 range, because one said if we had, and the idea is it may be more cost effective to do it this way. But even with that, you know, say back out 350 or 400 for the bathrooms, the town is committing $700,000 to this if we put the other 200 in. So it's not like we're being stingy. You know, I don't think.
Which leaves us a total of what? We're at 7 plus the 4, that's 1.1.
We'd be at 1.1 if we put the
So-
200,000 in.
So that means that their half would be 1.1 to match. If you want to do it that way, but that's
That
still,
doesn't even get you there.
yeah, it still doesn't get you there.
Yeah, but again, the education center was a complete ad
Yeah.
from what we initially thought of. And it could be a terrific thing, but I'm not necessarily sure. It's one thing for us to, you know, fix what we have and maintain. It's another thing for us to say we're going to fund something that is new and expanded, which also takes expanded space. I just think it's different.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm okay with saying, I would say, let's put the additional 200 or 265, I don't even care.
Mhm.
And then approach it very much like we do in the Athletic Foundation and said, we're in for this much. You guys are in this much, but we don't spend a penny till everything's in the bank. Because that's how we did it with the Athletic Foundation.
And that's your point earlier, Deanna, is coming back outside the cycle.
Mhm.
It's a project like this that's as complicated as this is. It's because you're really not going to break ground on this thing until we know exactly what we're doing. I mean, we've already been down the road. Well, let's do the bathrooms, let's do the potting shed, but none of that makes sense unless you know, what the whole scope looks like.
Yeah.
So
And the fundraising gets easier. If they say the town will give us this much as soon as we raise this
Right.
much, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a better approach. I think, yeah, I just do. I think, committing to finishing what we committed to doing at the beginning with the potting shed
Yep.
money, and that I can get on board with that.
Yeah. And
Um,
recognizing costs went up. So
Yep.
that happens,
It
right?
happens.
So,
And then, it's on you guys to kind of bring everybody along with expanded fundraising, grants, because I know we've all kind of heard the story and we understand where you're going, but now, the numbers are shifting and we need to like really put, and then it's also up to you to really bring in the numbers on, more specifics on programming, what you're really going to be doing there for the community so that, they can commit the funds that would be necessary to get that done. And that's what, you're right, that is what we do with the Athletic Foundation. That's how we treat everybody. So I think that's the fair. All right, so you want to, just for, you want to, so that they get that, maybe just take out the 500 for
take
the
out the 500, yeah.
annex and then leave the 200 and the 65.
yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're all right with that? You're all right with that?
Yeah.
All right, so Josh, why don't you do that? And we'll,
TBD.
yep. And you'll be, okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Look forward to coming back to you with more detail.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
that's,
Patricia.
thank you. Okay, what else?
Hey, Terry, quick, while we're on Waveney, the Waveney Park floor and sound, can you remind me what that is? I'm sorry. There's an $83,000 line item for,
I'm sorry,
it says Waveney Park
that's Lapham.
Lapham.
That's
okay.
flooring and soundproofing. So it's a new carpeting and soundproofing. Some of you can hear from room to room when people are walking through,
And then the Waveney Park, I think is Lapham Center drainage and chimney caps. Is that kind of part of the
Hoffman.
Hoffman study? That's
It's, well, it
still part of it?
facilitated the Hoffman study, but the drainage is exterior. So we have some issues on the exterior of the building drainage wise that Bill and Maria are working through.
And I'm gonna do this because we always did this Board of Finance, but we would always say, can this be put off a year? But the Waverly Park lamp post replacement project, I know that, was that last year and we pushed it?
No, it's a two-phase.
Okay.
So we purchased some of them.
Okay.
Then the next is to purchase the remainder and then actually do the install. So we're kind of, if you push it off, then we'll have a bunch of materials sitting.
Okay. All right. Just, sorry, had to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the bigger one is the Irwin Park main house roof engineering, painting and repairs. So I know you are getting estimates. I don't know if this is something, okay, this is where, do we need to leave more time to let the other bodies also sort of get more information on,
Yep.
so maybe we leave it in, but with the recommendation that they take a look at, sort of we'll get more specificity around costs of demo.
Based down the environmental cost of the demo
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
And then if you want to look on a new build, what that might be, give you different scenarios on
Yeah.
that. So we just started that process, reaching out to Fuss and O'Neill for the environmental aspect, going to Stanford Recking to give us a ballpark figure on demo, and then to actually then sit down and say, okay, based upon existing footprint, give you different build types, excuse me, at different square footages, price per square footage, and tell you exactly what that would be. So we just literally started
Okay,
that.
so
the
I
other
think
day.
it's early. Let's leave it in and
But I
then,
think we should leave it in with a comment.
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
like, that
Okay.
we are inclined, that, you know,
Yep.
you've looked to staff and you think
Yep.
you can move people, that there's room other
Yep.
places.
Yep.
That, I would not just be wishy-washy. I would say we're inclined at this point,
Mhm.
to, depending on cost, recommend, because the cost of retrofitting and the amount of space, uncertain needs.
Yep.
So Tiger, can I ask you this? Last year, we committed 150,000 to Irwin. Do you know how much we spent to that?
No, I can get you that, but it
Can we
hasn't been
halt
much.
spending anything else?
We haven't really gone forward because of the discussions that we've had.
Well, that's good,
So-
because we don't want to spend,
Right.
because maybe that's the cost of tearing it down,
Portion of that was to go for painting and doing the exterior woodwork, but then we brought in Hoffman instead to go do the analysis. At that point in time, we put a hold on.
Okay.
Based upon the analysis that was forthcoming, that we have now, that we put a hold on that. So I'd have to look back and see, but I can tell you exactly how much that was.
Yeah, so we spent money on the Hoffman, but we haven't
Spent money on the
Irwin.
Hoffman. We really didn't spend money on
Okay.
that 150.
So there's some reserves.
That's correct.
Depending on what we do. Okay, terrific.
Anything else in Public Works Town Building? Pavement management program for admin and engineering.
Pavement and that 3.5, I think, just like we would signal on Irwin, we should signal that that's an important 3.5 as well, because
Yeah.
many times that goes forward and people try to chop that down. And I just,
Mhm.
that should stay where it is. So
Mhm.
Yeah, and your slide's good on that because it just shows the inflation adjusted.
Mhm.
Sorry,
it just is always an easy target. Well, yeah, we can save $500,000 or $1 million there. Well,
Yeah.
it's just
not really.
you're not saving anything.
You had said in the past that the longevity of what we pave depends upon the composition of the asphalt, like how much oil is in it. Is that kind of like stabilized of what?
They're continuing to tweak it, the designs every couple of years, but now we're getting at least 12, 14, 15 years out. So.
Right.
In the last webinar I attended, they were seeing that nationwide 12 was their number nationwide. So
Tucker, what's the difference with the pavement preservation versus pavement management?
so there's $250,000 for payment. That's our utility cuts, curbs,
Okay.
things like that,
Okay.
all
Okay.
localized repairs,
Okay.
things of that nature.
Yep.
The pavement management, the 3.5 million is actually the
The bulk
milling
of-
and paving and the road resurfacing, the larger projects.
And you have it showed me, because I know the sidewalks are down
I was
to
gonna ask you that.
50. That's no new sidewalks. That's just the south, that's the south of the Y stuff and all the the repair of existing.
Repair of
stuff.
existing, no new sidewalks.
Okay.
No.
Which is very much like the pavement program.
Yeah.
And it's like when we add sidewalks, they're
Yeah.
great, but they have a useful
Yeah.
life and people need to.
Yeah,
Realize
it's not
that, yeah.
inexpensive.
Yeah.
Okay. And. Okay. Any questions for Tiger? Highway?
You know, I'm I'm
Yep.
all the way good till Public Works.
Yeah, I
Parks.
think.
Parks.
Yep. Okay, so, Public Works Parks. Does anybody have any, so we were gonna take,
The courts come out, pickleball.
so we leave the 200 for the pickleball carts, but we're moving the 290. That's already been done, correct,
Mhm.
Josh? So that gets moved out a year. And then we reduced, and we moved we removed the basketball court at Kiwanis.
Yeah.
Until and then we,
Tiger, what's the pavilion at Waverly Park? I'm
The
sorry.
pavilion,
Yep.
that's where for housing the rec programs outside. Right now they do it with tents. So they want to
Oh,
put it
right,
in a wooden
right.
structure.
over by
I'm
the
sorry, I forgot. but yeah.
softball field,
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of cool. I like
By the
that.
bathroom.
You could also rip it out. So,
Right, it's a very nice ad.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Splash
Splash pads
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
came
splash
out.
pads out. Okay. All right, and then the. Anything, yep, so BOE, here we go.
Thank you.
But it's not in our book. We can't put it in their book. Report of that.
Under the tab. All right.
Mhm.
110.
Yeah, I just go in here, capital budget. They do a nice job tabbing everything out.
Yeah, page 105.
Yep. Excuse me.
Said it's expensive to tab.
It is. I know, I know. It's pretty funny. It is, you're right. Okay, so, were there any items in their capital budget that, I mean, I think the big question is the PA system.
Is there,
Oh, right, and the
And the
scoreboard.
scoreboard. I mean,
is there a chance on the PA of getting a demo? Because it seems like there's more to it than just the
Yeah.
PA system.
All right,
you know.
Brian, here we go. You know what, we could go at 4 o'clock today. They're gonna can show us the PA system. I just got a text from Brian, because I texted him last night,
There you go.
and
Okay.
So,
Do
you
you have to
wanna,
do you have to notice that because we're all going? How does that
yeah,
work?
well, yeah. Yep, so. I think,
Or because it's a budgetary thing? As long as we don't discuss the,
yeah, we just
vote.
don't, well, I'm noticing right now on public that I'm gonna go over to the high school at 4 o'clock to go look at the PA system. I think it's open to the public. I think if they want to talk to,
yeah, please join.
to, yeah,
Brian.
please join us and, yeah.
purely a presentation,
Yeah, we're not gonna discuss
no
it.
discussion.
No discussion. so.
Well, because part of it is this PA, Brian mentioned the fact that there's safety involved as well as the auditory, sensory
Mhm.
component. And unless we actually see it, we're not really, I can't picture what that looks like. So I'd like to go over there and have a presentation as far as what that is before we, it's because,
Especially
know.
because you gotta hear it. You can't
Yeah.
see it, man.
Well, and I just learned last night that they had a PA system we could see.
Yeah.
I just learned about it last night.
So
And we have
it's-
to vote
Yeah,
Thursday.
Yeah, so it's important. I think it's important that we see that. So it's
Okay.
really a demo, and obviously, if anybody's listening, please come join us
Yep.
if you want.
Yep.
It's open to the public.
Yep.
All right, so
You know,
What
the scoreboard, that just screams to me athletic foundation. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offload it on athletic foundation, but unless it just, but again, that's one of those things. Did they pay it for initially and then it becomes our expense? I mean, that's
That wasn't.
the tricky part with all this. It's so great till it has to be replaced.
Yep.
So,
Although, to be fair, you need a scoreboard.
You do need a scoreboard.
That's not like a.
Yeah.
I mean, we got lucky. I mean, the scoreboard that was put there
Mhm.
was significantly more than the town would have paid for.
Sure.
So, but you cannot have a football field without, or a
Or any of
lacrosse
this, you're right,
field, or
you're
a,
Well,
without a scoreboard.
And to
And
be
it's fine.
fair, this isn't a whole new, it's,
Electricity.
right. I mean, a lot of the expense of the initial was getting the electricity
Mhm.
run, getting the framing done, getting all the support done.
Mhm.
This is the board itself, so,
Nah, I agree.
I haven't watched an event over there, so I don't know what the status of it is. It something that could be pushed out a year? That's one of those things, I just don't know
Yeah.
what he says that it needs work, so.
Well, and it's also, that you could argue it's part of the curriculum over there too,
Mhm.
because Roman and his class, the
Mhm.
AV class is
Mhm.
constantly,
Yeah.
on the field,
Yeah.
off the field, all that stuff is part of their
But-
curriculum.
The Board of Ed capital ask, I think is very reasonable this year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have it.
I don't have an issue.
Yep.
So, all right,
Okay. All right.
so 4 o'clock. Okay, for demo. Thank you.
Let's see.
Thank you, Josh.
Fee memos
Great.
also. Memos.
Fee
Oh, right,
memos.
yeah.
To keep in mind, they'll be approved.
That's on third. Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Wait, what's on our agenda today? We're not going over it.
Oh, yeah, we're not doing the female memos today. Yeah, let's do them
Review, they
today.
Should be on your
Let's
tablet.
just do it.
Oh, I didn't bring my tablet in.
You
Sorry.
can share.
I left it in my office. Forgot. Which I need, thank you, because I will need it for the second part of this meeting, although I'm guessing we're gonna need a break before we go to the second part. Okay. All right, so you can start, Josh, with the fee memo. Yeah, I'm like, wait, where'd you go?
I looked through them all. Yeah. That's fine.
They plan on presenting anything for them. They are on your tablets. They were a combined set of fee memos. Just pull it up real quick. From Recreation, DPW, Building, PNC, Parking, Health, Tax Collector, and PD. So there should be a combined document on your
Mhm.
tablets for that.
Yep.
So these are all those.
I can share it on your screens if you like.
Yeah, but we have them on the
You
tablet.
do have them on the tablets, yeah.
A lot of these were presented to us already.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like tipping fee.
Yep.
Disposal of brush.
Yeah.
Stuff, we looked at all that.
Yeah, and all the changes were
Thank you.
reflected.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So,
I just, the one, on these fees, the one that I thought, maybe had some room was the Waveney House rentals they just seem very, very modest.
well, I think because we still have, this year, we're gonna be spending, I think in March, the elevators going in, or the work is gonna really start
It's the first quarter.
December.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Airing now through March, and then
Next September. So I think that facility with the work that we have to do on the outside, and there's gonna be a lot of disruption
Okay,
for the
that's fine.
next year. I'm not sure it's gonna warrant a big,
That's fine. And it, yeah.
It's all completed, then we'll.
Take a look, see.
yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, looking through a lot of these slides too, these are sort of a recount of all the presentations that we've had. I mean, the inland wetlands, all their fees, all that stuff that we've talked at length about. So we've already kind of looked at most of the stuff. Parking, we looked at that.
Yeah, everybody came forward. Yeah.
Yeah. this proposed from Park and Rec, the proposed fees for the pool fees and I don't know that we actually discussed that, but that's pretty much.
I did hear them go through the commission
Yeah.
on those.
Yeah.
Um,
And they were modest
Yeah.
increases. And again, that's why we have the commissions to do the
Right.
work. We shouldn't double,
Yeah.
we shouldn't,
No, they should set the fees. They do the research, so.
Okay.
All right.
Is everybody okay?
Yep.
All right.
That's good.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Okay, so I think that concludes the budget relook. We'll be voting on Thursday and then off to the next level of review.
I feel much better knowing that there's revenue in that's gonna offset some
Oh,
of
yeah,
these increases.
yeah. Well, and it's so important that that $800,000 number that you bring up, that's, when you, if you,
Put in
if-
that context.
yeah,
Yep.
very helpful.
Okay. Do we want to take a 2-minute break before we go into the rest, or do you just
Sure.
want to power through? Break. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We are now on item 5 in the agenda. It is New Canaan's Farmers Market. Approval of a request from Alexis. Yeah. Oh, I am so sorry you had to sit
Jeez,
through all
Lex,
of
wow.
that. Okay,
Just earnest.
yes.
Morning. So I'm Alexis Gazy. I'm the farmer's wife at Gazy Brothers Farm. I've been running the farmer's market for 26 years. We started out with about 7 vendors and we're up to about 40 farmers, vendors, artisans, and nonprofits. I think last year we've seen pre-COVID normal crowds, which was really nice. Food Rescue comes at the end of the market and collects our extras. A lot of New Canaan residents volunteer to help them. So it's a good connection. We like the relationship, and I think I haven't had any real complaints or issues or any situations that.
People love the farmer's market.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
It's great.
The new location, we're in our 5th season this year.
Wow.
In our new
Time
location.
really flies.
So people take the train, they walk through town.
And there's a lot of parking.
There's a lot of parking. Not as many horns as there used to be.
The flow is so much better over there. I mean, cars can get in and out of there. You've got traffic coming up both ways on Elm Street, getting in and out. And it's pretty rare when you see a significant backup there. I mean,
Yes.
when you get the busy days, but for the most part, it operates and nobody even knows that, driving down Elm Street, it's wide open. So, whoever's directing
Surprising.
traffic in there is doing a good job getting people in and out of there. So.
We used to hear at the South Avenue spot that Elm Street is always too busy for them to go shopping.
Yeah.
And when we moved there, it's like, where's the traffic?
Yeah, I mean, you have days where you probably get a little bit of backup up into, up to Stewart's and that intersection there a little bit, but overall, it's pretty good.
A little bit. I think around 10 o'clock, but I
Yeah,
think it
there's
weeds
peaks.
out after like 10:30, 11.
And only in New Canaan would we think that's a backup.
That's true.
And it's a half a second.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But actually good. It slows people down a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
But the feedback we get, I constantly told how great it is. And, you get over there and the feeling of, it's almost like it's its own little microcosm. You go in there and there's so many smiling faces and people having fun. And, it's occasionally you have a performer there and it's really a nice event. So.
We do. We had a new band there this year from New Canaan. They were pretty popular.
Yeah.
And the kids, it's really fun to see the kids. They dress up in their costumes, little superheroes, ballerinas. They bring their baskets to go shopping. It's
That's
fun
great.
to see.
That's just great.
Great. That's great.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
So could I get a motion to approve a request from Alexis Gazy, Market Master, to hold the summer New Canaan Farmers Market at the Lumberyard parking lot on Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. from April 26, 2025 to December 20th, 2025.
Just a discussion, Tiger, these are dates and times are exactly the same as last year, right? Okay, all right. I will make the motion.
I will second.
All right, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thanks
you.
for all you do. All right, animal control vehicle.
I'm going to recuse myself on this one.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Ann, for joining us.
Sure, Captain Frankie had to step out on other business, so I'm going
Okay.
to cover for him. So we are looking to replace our animal control vehicle.
Mhm.
It's currently 13 years old. You know, it's not reliable anymore. So we need to get our animal control officer, who's pretty busy during the week, a reliable vehicle. Being it's not used as often as or as vigorously as a patrol vehicle, we thought purchasing a used vehicle would be more sensible and more fiscally sound. So we looked at a 2021 Chevrolet Equinox all-wheel drive, and we would like to purchase that vehicle and trade in our 2012 Dodge van. So the total purchase for the town, which is covered in our capital, is $24,179, and that's with Carl Chevrolet.
And so I have Ann here today because we did get a resident email about this purchase and not going out to bid. And so Ann is best able to articulate our purchasing policy, so that if you could.
So in terms of our purchasing policy for a formal bid, it's 50,000 and above. For what we normally would call our quotes, it's 25,000 to up to 50,000. This is under that level, but from a purchasing of cars is actually we don't typically bid cars, individual cars. Police go out and they get their programs from different entities that offer that up for their cars because they're very specific. I talked about this with our auditors in terms of that too. So you go out and get your best estimate if it's underneath the 25, anything from 25 to 20 to 50, you would then just canvas different areas. And as Tiger has actually spoken before, we have to look at the distance for where those cars have to go back for repairs. So the further they are, that's 2 people you're taking out of staff for that period of time, going and coming back. So there's a lot going into when you actually purchase a car than just our bids, but this one is below our thresholds from a normal quote and formal bid.
You have any questions?
No, my own question, what's trade-in value here? Am I missing that somewhere?
I was looking for that as well. I didn't run this purchase.
I mean, I have the car. It's a van cargo with 74,000 miles in 2012, but I just don't know what
It doesn't look, it's not on that sheet.
Yes, conveyance, down payment.
And this is, we're purchasing a used vehicle, correct?
Yes. It's a 2021.
21.
I don't see that right away.
I don't see it either.
We'll just need to get that number too.
Sure, the officers that handle that, like I said, Captain Frank had to step out. He would know that number, but I can get that for you.
Yeah, I kind of need that before I can, you know.
Okay, so do we want to then?
And we can put off till Thursday?
Yeah.
So, you know, just so we have the number.
If it's okay with you, just so we could get it done, I could step out. Could we address it today?
Sure.
I could find that
Yeah,
number.
that's
I can make
fine,
a
that's
phone
fine.
call for
Yeah,
you.
if you can come
Like
back
I said,
by
I
then.
didn't manage the
Yeah.
purchase, so, but I
Well,
can
it
get
looks
that
like
for you.
it's about $500 because the trade-in looks about $500 because if you look at the 24,629 total cash delivered price and the price that we're paying, it's 24,179. So it looks like $500. What are we?
Well, we have a down payment of
450.
450.
I already said.
Yeah.
Consider the down payment.
If we could just get that. I
Yeah, I'll
mean,
get the answer for you.
Without knowing that, I
Yep.
just can't. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So moving on. Okay. you wanna come- Tiger, Karma purchase order increases.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is This is regards to our LAP insurance policy with Karma. That's our liability, auto and property insurance policy. And what we have is they insure our town's fleet and our stock of equipment under the policy. The policy dates started July 1 and run through 24, run through July 1 of 25 or fiscal 25. Unfortunately, any changes in the number of vehicles insured or the changes in the type will then allow them to go back and take a look and see if whether there's an adjustment in the premium associated with it. So we had several purchases dating back to July 1, from July 1 to October 30, for highway, parks, the sewer, Getabout, recreation, BOE, and then the various changes between what we had traded or gotten rid of versus the new vehicle. Obviously, the difference between a 10-year-old, 15-year-old vehicle and a brand new vehicle sometimes is quite substantial. So the total came to $3,280. And since the purchase order for our LAP policy is already above the $10,000 limit, we had to come back to you for an adjustment.
So we're
Why do
asking,
we have 5,500?
because we know that there's going to be other purchases this year, so we're trying to at least estimate what we think it's going to
Right.
be. So we don't have to come back.
So how many additional vehicles and the value of those, I don't need each vehicle's value, but like, did you estimate or did they estimate as the combined additional value?
They went through by each vehicle.
Right.
So on the invoice that we had, they went through each vehicle for,
Oh, so the entire fleet, not just the additional values?
no, just the additional values. I'm sorry. So
How many vehicles and what's the additional value that we're adding for this 3280?
Well, 13, 14 vehicles, 16 vehicles, I'm sorry. 16 separate vehicles between the BOE and us, and the
Okay.
delta between the two. It comes to the 3,280 at present.
It's not that we've added 16 vehicles, we switched them out.
Right, we switched them out.
How many
yes.
vehicles do we have? total?
We have 218 plated.
Okay.
So that's but that goes vehicles, equipment, trailers, so everything that goes over
Right.
the road. So
Right.
on down to one of our like a
Bigger mowers.
yeah, a bigger mower. Thank you. I was more thinking about like a Workman, so anything that goes over the road is plated.
So from an insurance standpoint, it's basically, if you look at, a 15-year-old pickup truck that we have, that's worth $1,500 or $2,000, and then you replace it with a $50,000.
Yeah. Good one.
So if you divide the 3280 by
Yeah.
16, it's $205. So it's, it makes complete sense. It's just like
Yeah.
in your home policy, when you trade in an old car and you put a new car in the policy, you're going to see an increase. So
Yeah.
that's,
Can I ask a really dumb question? And
No questions are dumb.
No, there is the auto insurance, is it broken, like in everybody's budget? Like, the Department of Public Works?
No, it's covered under our LAP policy.
Okay.
So, and we found out, at least when we brought the Getabout on, that we have some very good rates for the amount of vehicles that we have and what we pay. So
Show me where that would be. I'm just, and I'm curious, how,
we actually just did it. So it would be in the
In that-
LAP.
that
When
whole-
you see the LAP, that's where you'll see
Okay.
the liability.
and how have we, insurance is getting brutal. Are we finding it's getting car insurance? We're okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
I think because we're in such a huge pool, because we're in with so many different communities, that we're able to see those savings
Okay.
rather than an individual policy.
also a different kind of driving than your typical
Then your
drive.
teenager.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and we're not exactly out, except for the Board of Ed, we're not really out on the highways or anything either.
Right.
It's all local stuff, so.
Okay.
So
Any
those
other
are-
questions? If not, if I could get a motion to approve a request from the Department of Public Works to increase the previously approved purchase order with Kerma by a total of $5,500 for insurance of additional vehicles.
So moved.
Unanimous. Thank
Thank
you. So wait, are you ready? You know what, Joe, we're gonna wait 1 second because they're ready for their. I'm sorry.
So it's actually simpler than we thought. If you do the math, it's 450. If you look at the trade-in line, it's about halfway down on the quote.
Gotta go back to this.
It's the next box over. It's the 450. It's the down payment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just next to trade-in. It's just a box over.
Trying to find this.
And it is a very old van and it's, it's seen its time. Very past its prime and has broken down several times.
Where is, I'm looking for my fee memo again. Sorry. It's like we had it open and now I gotta go find it again.
If you go halfway down the page,
No, I see. Okay, here. Oh, I'm gonna look. at
Oh,
you
right
'cause you
there.
have
There,
it.
there, there. I see it. I see it. I see it. I see it.
Yeah.
Right there. Okay. All right.
box number
Trade
9.
him. So I got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, if not, if I could get a motion to approve a request from the New Canaan Police Department to enter into a contract with Carl Chevrolet in the amount of $24,179 for the purchase of a 2021 Chevrolet Equinox to be used by animal control. The price reflects a credit for a trade-in of the current vehicle.
So moved.
It's seconded and then it's unanimous. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, Joe.
Good morning,
Morning.
almost afternoon. Ready? So the first item I'm here for is material testing at the police department. The Public Works is requesting authorization to increase the contract with special testing labs to perform material testing as required by the project's statement of special inspections. And these inspections are required by state building code. So several factors have contributed to the need for additional testing, mainly unforeseen conditions. Items like the high footing that was in the back of the building that drove the need for additional phases. So additional phases drives the need for additional inspections of each particular phase. And there was load-bearing walls throughout the existing building that also was kind of the second group of things that needed to be inspected on a regular basis that drove up the cost. So the Department of Public Works, the funds are available in the soft cost budget. We are a little bit over budget on this particular line item by about $5,000, but it's funded from savings from other line items within the soft cost budget.
Has the testing already happened?
Some of it has. I didn't want to stop them because to make up a day costs us, $7,000 in overtime. So that's 3 days worth of work.
So are we done testing?
We're getting close. Yep.
Some of the joys of the hidden costs of construction.
Yeah.
Renovation. Alrighty.
So do you envision then this 19, you won't need to come back to us with for any more?
Back to you. I do have to come back for the special inspector, the engineer to review these voluminous reports and to sign off on them all, but it's only about $7,000 from what I'm understanding.
Okay. All right. If I could get a motion to approve a request from the Department of Public Works to increase a contract with Special Testing Labs by $19,000 to perform materials testing as required.
Second.
It's unanimous. All right, and facility renovations.
So again, this is for the police department, computers and networking equipment. Oh, there's Chris. Hey, Chris. Hey, Chris. So the IT department helped bid this one out. They got quotes from several vendors, but we ended up using the state contract through Sourcewell. It gave us the most competitive price. They were within just a few dollars of each other. So this is for PD staff. They'll have all new desktop computers and networking equipment. The existing virtual machines are at their end of their usable life over in that area, and the other in the police department. So this is for all the staff computers over there. And the one nice thing about getting all new computers for the PD is just from a move back perspective, that Chris will be able, Chris and his team will be able to set up all the computers on all the desks and have everything. Basically, they're gonna log off over at 39 Locust and come over to the main PD and just be up and running, just log in again, right?
Exactly.
So the funds are available in the project soft costs under data equipment. And one other item was the one thing they're not going to do is they're not going to get a brand new phone system, which they weren't planning on doing because it's got plenty of its usable life left in it. So that there's $50,000 in savings that also contributes to just buying all the new computers. And it avoids a line item for the PD in the future for the, going through the regular budget cycle.
In here, just on purchasing policy, is it because they have 3 separate quotes for different things? They didn't need to go out to bid on this? Yeah. Yeah, this is 62,000. Yeah, that's what I was surprised not to see more of the other bids.
There are other proposals that were received, and I could send
Yeah,
them.
I think
I
we
could
need to
send them
push
over.
this off 'cause this.
But it was the soft, these were used, the pricing was done off the Sourcewell technology pricing. So it's from that I used. That's why I didn't include all the random quotes, even with Sourcewell.
Yeah, with the state
Sourcewell
bid,
from
With the
state
state
bid.
contract? It's the state IT. It's a state conglomerate.
right?
Yes.
That's why I did it.
Okay, all right.
So they're, the state's already basically done
Done
the
the
bidding.
bidding.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
And they did kind of almost like I would say like almost like a check to make sure. And the numbers came in from different vendors at almost within
Right, our last
within
one.
$15 of
Right,
each
they're
other.
very
Okay.
close to the state, because it's under state contract, we can get everything under one.
Okay,
So getting back to the phones for a sec. So the phones they're using currently at Locust, they're going to move those over? They just travel back to.
We've upgraded certain amount of them already. They're gonna finish upgrading the rest of them. But that's all that's coming over. They have the same desktops that we are replacing now here, that we won't have to replace over there. That's why my budget next year, the project side is low. They'll have all new equipment. Again, there's no reason to take 8-year-old, 9-year-old machines and walk them over to the police department and then take them out in a year.
Yeah, so that was the next question. So all of the equipment, their monitors, all the those are 8 to 9 years old that they're currently using in the, okay.
Yeah, the only thing we're not gonna replace is anything that if they purchased a second monitor. That's not on the ITs, that's on the police department if someone needed a second one.
And those machines there, I mean, even the monitors, is there any repurposing we can do within the town?
Not at all, because they're a thin client. They don't have any data on them. They just come from the servers.
Got it.
Yeah, we tried to keep this as low as possible and knew that they had a technology budget. So that's why what are we gonna bring? What can we save on and what can we give them new?
so but this comes out of the police building,
Mm-hmm.
even, it's only if they wanted another monitor, it'd have to come out of their regular budget.
Correct, right. Anything that we don't support or we're supplying, same kind of idea here. It's always been that IT supports, here's your desktop. If you wanted to have that, that's a nice add-on, but you need to get, it's only a couple $100, but it's got to come out of your budget.
So are we gonna have a request for printers and stuff like that separately? Is there gonna be printer?
Printers are
requests?
pretty new,
Leased.
because they use the MFPs, the larger copiers. The smaller printers, they handle on their own, have their own budget.
And then another question, and there may be an odd question again. Again, I know a lot of businesses now aren't even doing phones. It's
Yeah, we
like all
can't-
coming through your computer, but you can't.
Police, fire, EMS, schools, everybody's on the system, so we can't just break loose and say.
Okay.
We've had that.
Worth asking.
Yeah, we had it when, a couple of years back, we had someone come up and say, listen, I work for the insurance industry in New York and we went all Skype. I said, that's great. How are you gonna tell a parent you can't get a hold of an administrator at the schools over an earpiece that doesn't, and it just doesn't work. That's why, yeah.
I just
We've
wondered.
thought of it, honestly.
Well, we have the technology in place too, and it's really over IP, right? So you're just plugging it in.
Yep.
We're not spending any money on the phone asset.
No, it should be a very smooth transition. And as soon as they allow us the building, IT will go in
outfit it, make sure that it communicates, the radios communicate and all that, and then we'll walk all the new devices in. So honestly, that John's staff can, hopefully the idea is just walk right into their positions and sit down.
Yeah, so there won't be any equipment training or any of that stuff that's
No,
needed.
it'll all
plug
look
and
the
play.
same for the most part for their concern. Desktops, images, all the same. Yep.
Kind of savings having in-house IT, being able to do all this. If you had to get a consultant to come in and do it, they'd charge you. Don't get any ideas.
I'm not, that's where our new guy Matt's gonna live for a few months.
There you go.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
No.
If not, if I could get, and I need you to stay after, so just after we approve this. If I could get a motion to approve a request from the Department of Public Works and the Information Technology Department to enter into a contract with It Savvy LLC in the amount of $62,617.43 plus a contingency of $2,500 for a total cost of $65,117.43 for the purchase of computer equipment.
So move.
Second.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
And the only reason I asked you to stay is in our budget conversation, there was a question about, all our service agreements and that they're only 1 year. Most of them are 1 year now. And so if you could kind of explain why that is.
Generally, there's 4 different options. Usually when you get a first year or 3-year contract, they'll come back and they may not offer after that, because they've already taken the hit. Secondly, it's such technology changes. So in 3 years, we may turn around and say, this isn't working for us any longer. We're going to go with something else and get the benefit of saving the first 3 years with them. Some don't offer it at all after that. And then fourth, you've got like Dark Trace. They came in, they gave us a 3-year contract. We got the Board of Ed to come in with us using the same materials and boxes, and they didn't have to purchase anything. So they left the contract price. So as long as we stay with them, we'll stay at that number. But we revisited almost every summer. And I would say every summer. We talk to surrounding people. I go far out in the country. I try to just get on a board and find out who's doing what, why, and how. And the reason being is there may be something we haven't heard of, and it's a little better than what we're at, and we're paying a little more money than we should be. So we try to back it down for the next year.
Right. So
Yeah, and I think the reason you brought that up is that we're finding like stuff we used to buy, we now have to lease, and they keep popping up the lease prices because that's the new business.
That's right. The business, they've all jumped on board. And when Cisco first did it a few years back, our phone system went from $34,000 a year for all the equipment to $56,000. And that's again with a 3-year savings contract. And that was just for the licensing of all the phones and all the equipment that touches it, which you've already purchased. Yeah. So that's what's hurting us mostly is anything you buy, you still have to pay the extra license to run it.
So it's like the computer equipment is coming down, but
Right,
the
hardware's-
operating software is going up. Yep.
Hardware is cheap, licensing is what,
Mhm.
so it'll come back though.
You're looking at it every year, whether it's better
Yeah,
to do a 1 year or a
absolutely,
3 year.
absolutely.
And
That's why we've been consistent with our budget. And again, the licensing went up. We knew it was we said it last year and the year before, there's gonna be a hit. We don't need as much this year at all to purchase equipment, as you see with our capital projects, it's the licensing fees.
Does the Open Gov let you lock in for more than a year, or is that a year, or is that?
OpenGov was Jen, I wasn't part of the contract negotiations on that, but they came in with is that a 2-year or 1 year? 1-year contract. They only went up 4% or it was very nominal. So we're comfortable with that particular product right now, but you may see the more that jumps on with them that they go up 11, 6%, 8%.
Well, that's what I was wondering. It seems like that's a win that we found, and it would be nice to lock it in, but
Yeah, they don't offer more than multi-year. That's one of the ones that doesn't do multi. PD has the same concept. Their software works well. That they can lock in, but certain subscriptions they have, they only do 1 year because they know you gotta come back.
Yeah, once they get you.
all right.
We'll see in a bit. I'm number.
All right. So neglected cemetery grant.
Yes, thank you. So I'm here today for approval of a resolution authorizing the first selectman to apply for and receive a neglected cemetery grant. There's a $5,000 grant that we're applying for, and this is one of the requirements that you be authorized to sign all the documents.
So if we approve this, can I just reference the agenda? Or do I have to read it?
She was specific last time that it be read into the record. I didn't specifically ask her about this one.
And just for the public, which cemeteries are we talking about?
So there's nine cemeteries, and it would just basically be like mowing and bushes and clearing out briars. Talmadge Smith Cemetery, Waterbury Cemetery, Parade Ground Cemetery, Sealy Chrissy Cemetery, Young Burial Ground, Chrissy Cemetery, Silver Mine Cemetery, Rock School District Cemetery, and Brookside Road Cemetery.
And this augments some of these there's a lot of volunteers involved in keeping some of this stuff up too. So it's always a good time to try to recognize what they're doing too, because it's keeping these things looking nice is important.
Right. There are various organizations that are actually helping us in the effort. So this is a spillover from the last one that we had there. So we're working on the same cemeteries, mowing, things of that nature. But yeah, so we have the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the DAR, Beautification League. There are others that or just residents that live nearby that come and help. So we are very thankful for everyone that helps us out.
It's a lot of work.
All right, so if I could get a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the first selectman to apply for and receive the neglected cemetery grant as follows. Be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen of the town of New Canaan, one, that it is cognizant of the town's grant application to the State Office of Policy and Management, Intergovernmental Policy and Planning Division, 2025 Neglected Cemetery Account Grant Program. Wow. For grants funds to clear weeds and overgrown brush and perform minor repairs to known neglected cemeteries in New Canaan, and two, that it hereby authorizes the first selectman, Deanna Carlson, to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said grant should the town be selected for a grant award.
Second.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
What's the chance we'll get this?
We got it last year.
Yeah. Each time we've applied, each time they've offered, we've gotten it. So we had 2,000 first time, 5,000 last time. We're often asking for 5,000.
Great. Yeah, we'll take it.
All right, fence repair.
All right, thank you. I asked Nick just to stay back at the plant since we didn't know when going to come here. So we're asking for an add to an existing purchase order for A to Z Services LLC to repair some fencing at the treatment plant. The existing fence is 24 years old. We had a couple of sections that started to lay over, one pedestrian gate. And given the fact that we are basically a large swimming pool, we wanted to make sure that we had fencing all around. We actually have 3 large swimming pools, so we want to make sure that no one actually comes in and
How much
takes it
did we
back.
put in a PO for this company before?
We put in we had a $35,000 PO originally that has a remaining balance, 35,929.39. That was for work that we had done all along the one side along the cemetery. They were
Right. No, I'm just asking, this is $5,000. Have we already gone through our whole PO?
Yeah, we had 35,929.39.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't we had to have approved at the Board of Ed. We had to approve here
That you approved. That's correct.
but you didn't ask for any more in the PO. So we're gonna, because I don't want this coming every 5 seconds.
Right, but we were just, the fact that we were over the original, that's why we were coming
Okay.
back. That we felt that since we were over the original, we had to come back to you.
It's only if you haven't requested it in the original. When you bring it before this board,
Mhm.
if you don't ask for enough for the year in your PO or for whatever the project is, this is way below the threshold of that, which should come to this board.
Okay.
So we've had this conversation. We need to have,
Because it was $35,000 and it was a little bit different in the fact that we had monies left over from one PO, asking to carry that with this work. That's why. So we.
no, but you
granted,
should figure that in when you come to this board for the original request.
The work that we had done originally, this fencing started to fail after that work was done.
Okay.
So
The scope changed.
right, it was a completely different location.
Okay.
That's all. I understand that it's only an increase of $805 and I don't want to waste the board's time, but given the circumstances, we felt we should come back.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
I was just erring on the side of caution. But
No change in material or anything.
no change in material, no nothing. It's just asking to carry over what we had encumbered from the previous project, adding an additional $805.11 for 594155 we have the monies available. And A to Z has done great work for us. And the last time we bid, they were the low bidder out of 9.
It's good.
Just out of curiosity, because we have had this contingency discussion before. So did we go through contingency on this or we didn't have any?
We didn't have any. So this is basically what's left over on the contingency from the previous project.
Got it.
If I could get approval of a request from the Department of Public Works to increase a previously approved purchase order with A to Z Services LLC in the amount of $805 for fence repair work at the water pollution control facility.
So moved.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, sidewalks 2025.
So this next is a purchase of granite curbing for the southern bump outs on Elm Street. We went to 2 different suppliers. For this, there aren't that many granite suppliers. Are actually starting to consolidate. Williams just bought 3 yards, 3 other smaller companies, and Swenson bought out North Carolina Granite. So you're starting to see a consolidation in granite curbing. So we asked for the quotes from both. William Stone came in at the low bid at $19,443.75. We added a small contingency of $500, and that's only because when they cut the granite, if they cut it an inch longer, I have to pay an extra inch, things of that nature. For a total of $19,943.75, and the funds are currently available in the sidewalks capital budget.
And so when are we doing the south?
The south one is going to be sometime, hopefully April, May, right when there, and then we can come back in and pave.
Okay.
Because it seems like everyone's done on the street, thankfully.
Until you pay.
That's not nice.
It's true though. It's painful.
We pave it is the moment they're going to cut it again.
I know.
It's just the way it's going to go.
Okay. All right. So if I could get a motion to approve a request from the Department of Public Works to enter into a contract with William Stone in the amount of $19,443.75 plus a contingency of $500 for a total of $19,943.75. The project entails the purchase of granite curbing for various sidewalk projects.
So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Waveney House upgrades bill.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
So we're looking for approval to contract Eastern Mechanical Services to replumb one of the historic bathrooms, I guess we can call it, Waveney House. So what had happened was we're doing the current men's room into making it into a family ADA bathroom. And when we did the demo in there to do it, we discovered that there's a secondary ceiling in there. And somebody at one time had cut that first ceiling into an interstitial space to get to do some bathroom repairs above us. So it's an opportunity to get up in there now. We went up in there, we looked. It was kind of weird what they did, I don't know how long ago, but all the old piping there, it's old. It's 1912 was installed. The waste pipes and everything. So we like to take advantage of this opportunity of now that we have access above that ceiling to go ahead, we do that plumbing above that ceiling into that bathroom, bringing it all new right from the basement up. And that'll preserve that bathroom for years to come. And that's going to be the future bride's room. So if you go up to the top of the stairs, you make the left and the left across from the conference room. That's going to be the future bride's room, hopefully within the next couple of months. So they'll have their own bathroom that's fully functional. So it was an opportunity that came up, and we have some money to do some upgrades in that area anyhow. So we thought it would be a good time to take advantage of that before we close it in.
So that plumbing will go, it's second floor. The new stuff will go all the way down. There'll be no old stuff.
Right, because the bathroom that's underneath it is a current men's room. We're renovating, we already took it apart. So we have an opportunity to run all new pipe from basement right up into that bathroom.
And that's PVC pipe, right?
We'll do all plastic, get rid of the old galvanized and the old lead and the copper or whatever. It's up to some brass. It's interesting how they did it back in the old days. But we'll make it all nice and new and clean, so.
Okay.
Any questions? All right. If not, if I could get a motion to approve a request from the Department of Public Works to enter into a contract with Eastern Mechanical Services in the amount of $9,575 plus a contingency of, how much of a contingency is that?
20%. Yeah. It's the old building, historic buildings. We always try to keep it around 20%.
All right. Plus a contingency of $1,900 for a total cost of $11,475. The project entails the removal and installation of new domestic water piping and waistline piping to the current groom's room located on, I thought it was the bride's room.
It's gonna be the right. So we're doing right now, we're switching them.
Confused. All right, located on the second floor.
That's where IT was, right? The groom.
No, it's the other side. Yeah, we're swapping them around because the IT room lost their bathroom to the new bathrooms. So we felt it's best to put the grooms down there because the men's room's right there. Keep the brides up where the current groom's room is because they'll have their own bathroom. Because we don't want the bride to see the groom and vice versa during the wedding, so.
Okay. Clear as mud, but that's okay.
And just remind me, in the budget, that 40,000, was that for bathroom
That
improvements?
was for just general upgrades to the building itself that we had in there for things like this. And we also have some other monies that will be coming back to you about doing some electrical upgrades, getting some lighting downstairs where you can't see currently and stuff like that. So we discovered a lot doing this work. We found pathways to get above the ceiling and be able to walk around between the two floors to get some of that old electrical work. So we're gonna see what we can do.
Okay,
Yeah, that's good.
all right. So do I have a motion?
Yeah, so move.
Second.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, folks.
And the new bathrooms are CO'd and open, the second floor ADA bathrooms are usable and everything now?
No problem.
I just wanted to make sure. They took a while to get them.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Tiger Tree Warden.
Warden went out for his latest bid on January 23rd. We received 3 bids. It's for 11 separate locations in town. Mill River came in at the low at $17,404. We have monies available in the tree service budget, and we'd like to contract with Mill River and perform this work. There's no work in the parks. There's no work of note anywhere. Just
Any questions? Not, if I could get a motion to approve a request from the tree warden to enter into a contract with Mill River Tree Service in the amount of $17,404. The project entails the removal, pruning, and stump removal of various trees in town.
So move.
Second.
thank you.
Okay, and Cheryl.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We put an application out for a mechanic 2. We received 20 applicants. We interviewed 4. This individual worked for the city of Bridgeport since 2018. He has a CDL. He went through Porter and Chester Institute for automotive technology, and the interviewing committee felt that he was the best candidate, and we would like to offer him the position. Do you have anything?
We were very happy with, obviously, we presented himself and all that, and look forward to working with him. He's going to be on the younger side, mid-20s, I would say. I don't know. I'm assuming that, but that's good for us. You know, we're here for.
Right, we went out and checked his references. We talked to his previous employer or his current employer. Had nice things to say about him. Didn't want to lose him, but felt that he was being lost in the municipality he was in, and he felt he'd have better growth here. So we're happy to have him.
So he has previous experience in municipality or.
City of Bridgeport.
There you go. Oh, good. All right.
Working on the sanitary trucks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a big upgrade then.
All right.
Yeah.
No further questions. If I could get a motion to approve a request from the Human Resources Director to hire Jackson Sango for the position of mechanic 2. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and
Thanks.
information technology.
I usually gotta get 'em.
I guess I missed this one.
No worries.
I asked you.
I don't get to see you all the time, so this is fun.
Wow, no one ever says that to us. That's beautiful. Thank you.
You guys are doing a heck of a
Made-
job.
you
Thank
made
very
our
much for all
day.
that You do. This is just a renewal. It's our mailbox and our Teams and SharePoint subscriptions. And it's an annual. That's.
Are these going up too? Yeah, these going up like all our others.
They have not. That's the real nice thing about with the Microsoft Business Partners is they don't get any, it's just like the Cisco points. They go on a point basis, so you go with the company, we've been with them forever, but because they're the largest reseller around, their points are so high, they can come down and cut the cost where no one else, you can't go to a third party and expect to save any, there's no savings with them.
Great.
But yeah, this is straight for the email for all the town employees, the PD, fire, and everybody else, and SharePoint and our teams. We only have a couple of those.
I was gonna say, because I'm like, Teams is a pain here.
You're gonna be signing a thing for two. It's for the PD. They do all teams.
Oh, I was gonna say, because every time I try to get on a Teams meeting, it's a pain in the neck. So, okay.
When it doesn't like it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Like, wait, I don't get to, we don't have Teams here. But
No,
so it's
no,
just
no.
PD that gets it. Okay.
Yeah, they need it for some state, and that's the only way
Okay.
the state communicates. So, yep.
All right.
We're primarily Zoom, so it's interesting. to
Yeah,
see.
except for a lot of the meetings.
They give you a great government price.
I'm looking at these prices. If you try to do that on your own.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
It's great.
Microsoft and others, unless you have all the package, they don't really care about government pricing. The schools or things like that, they will, but they don't care if you're a duck up. But Zoom, I will say they do.
Great. Okay. All right. So if I could get a motion to approve a request from the Information Technology Department to enter into a contract with Presidio, the amount of $16,276.20 for the renewal of Exchange Online, Microsoft Teams, and SharePoint.
So moved.
Second.
It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we didn't have the Azure protection plan.
Have a lovely afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Tucker.
Yeah, you don't need to hear from me on this one. This is just the annual approval of the reimbursement rate to coincide with the IRS.
Oh, so this is the 70 cents is what the IRS tells us.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Great. Any questions? No.
I can
All
fight
right.
that one.
So if I could get a motion to approve a request to adjust the mileage reimbursement rate for town business effective January 1, 2025 from 67 cents per mile to 70 cents per mile in line with the recent change announced by the IRS.
So moved.
It's unanimous. All right, and you should have on your tablets the contracts under $10,000. If you have any questions. All right, if not, Selectmen's comments. Really, I'm trying to think. I don't have anything to really say today. Except for Thursday's our budget vote. Anything from either of you?
No, I think we've said it all today.
Yeah, okay. All right, so if not, I get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, second.
It's unanimous. Thank
Thank
you.
you.